for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. How you doing? Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, man. Today's Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022. I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the UnX Game Changer Networks. Race Hobbs. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? How you doing? All right. I barely made it. Fresh off the set. I haven't changed. This is it. And yeah. What a busy day today. I popped a live stream up earlier if you want to check it out over on Facebook, where I was and what I was doing. I was shooting a film today. And it was a lot of fun. And more on that in just a bit. Amazing crew. I love. I've been pretty blessed working with professionals. You know, when you have just a pro crew like that, it was insane. It was great. Drones. Yeah, man. And I'll tell you more about it later because I can't talk about it. But once the trailer gets released and that stuff happens, then I'll speak about what things are about and what's going on. Of course, we'll promote it here on the show, but a lot of fun, very professional, very cool. Okay, and I'll circle around to that now because we shot today. I just walked into the studio. Basically, that's it. So you get what you get. And it's a good thing this show is free. Today, if Isaac Arthur wasn't here to bail me out, I'm going to just tell you that right now. And he's going to be with us at the bottom of the hour. And so there you go. Let's get straight to it. Tonight, Isaac Arthur is here. We're going to be talking about time travel. Tomorrow night is another Fader night with open lines all night long. And I always look forward to Thursday night and being able to just hang out with all of you, our friends and family here at the show. So that's going on tomorrow night. And I was speaking to a friend of mine today. I don't know what it is with me in film lately, but today I was speaking with another director and producer today about stuff. And I said, hey, you need to come up Tuesday, August 16th and hang out with us at UPAR. And did I say she? Okay. All right. So, yeah, I gave that much away. And she said, yeah. You need to come out and hang out with us, too. That's Tuesday night, August 16th, right here in Los Angeles. Actually, it's in the Valley. It's Studio City, California, at the UPARS Get Together and in Studio City. And tickets and information are at uparsla.org. Come and hang out with us, and you'll meet who I spoke to today. Wouldn't that be fun? Absolutely. All right. So I love to have dinners and hang out and drinks and sky watches and things and just interesting stuff going on in the skies. And stuff was popping today during the day. And anyway, love to do that on the week. My weekends are shot until the end of the year. Well, actually, until spring. Coming up September 16th, I'll be in Joshua Tree for a private sky watch out there. We're going to do that in Joshua Tree and also over at Giant Rock. All you've got to do is go to Forbidden Club, that's with a 4, forbiddenclub.com, mint 10 NFTs, get your Forbidden Knowledge Black card, and then you're going to get an invitation to come and hang out with us, okay? It's going to be very small and personal and private. It's going to be great. And so come in and do that. Billy Carson, myself, Elizabeth is going to be there. And I already know a few other people that are going to be there. You want to do this. This is one of those events. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event where you're going to be able to be with a small group of people, night vision goggles for everybody, and just seeing stuff. It is so much fun. So just go to forbiddenclub.com and mint those NFTs and come and hang out with us. And then October, I'll be in Egypt, and that's for my birthday. Really looking forward to that. And then coming up next, the major events will be Conscious Life Expo, and then the cruise. Conscious Life Expo is in February, and the cruise that departs here in LA is in April. Okay, so yeah, lots of things coming up, and it just feels awesome to get back on track. But it just means no more barbecues for the next 6 months, and plus I've got a shooting schedule that happens in between. So this is the deal. So I get the shooting schedule from the network, and so I've got the dates. Those are blocked out weekends, and those had to get established around everything else that is there. So which means that every weekend that I don't have something booked, I'm shooting. That's it. That's it. My life is shot out. It's back to pre-pandemic levels. Get your free membership right now to the UnX Network. It's simple to do. Go to the unxnetwork.com, Ray Hobbs. Go to the unxnetwork.com, Margie K, and you'll receive their monthly newsletter. You're going to get a blog access. You're going to get event notices, and you're going to get a free digital copy of their quarterly magazine. And it's all simple to do. Just go to the unxnetwork.com. Some of you are already there. Go and become a member. It's simple, it's free, and it's easy. All right. Also, right now, EdenPURE, the best, man, the best. The Thunderstorm. I talk about it every night on the show. You have to understand. This is running right now next to me in the studio. You don't hear it. You hear a fan running? Do you hear something? You don't. And this is what it's like in your home. This is a soundproof studio. That's it. Soundproof. Okay. It's dead nuts quiet in here. And that's an international standard, by the way. Dead nuts quiet. You can look it up. When you go to the standards of quietness and soundproofing, at the top of the list is dead nuts quiet. That's how quiet it is in here. And this is running right next to me. You can do the same thing in your house. You're not going to hear it. You're only going to smell it. It is going to get rid of all of those odors. It's going to kill viruses. You can plug it in the wall, it runs USB, put it in your car, put it in your truck, put one in your bathroom. That's right. Thunderstorm. It's absolutely incredible. I can't live without mine now. I simply can't. And the promo code for their 3-pack special is Fader 3. So you get 3, you get free shipping, and you save over $200 on that 3-pack special. So click on the link below and head over to EdenPURE. All right. Links for everything. All of our sponsors are in the description box below. And of course, you can visit jimmychurchradio.com. We've got banners and ads over there. Visit all of our sponsors today. Follow me on Twitter at jchurchradio. That's right. You can follow Isaac Arthur on Twitter, but he's got a messed up Twitter handle. It's like he's got the geek nerd physicist Twitter handle. It's like A_I_Arthur_. He's got one of those. So I've got it up in Twitter. You can't, but I can't even memorize it. I have to go and look it up. And is it because I bet you I know why he had to do that? Because everybody is imitating Isaac Arthur. And so he's got to have that unique thing. But go and follow Isaac Arthur. You know what I do with Isaac? I'm going to give everybody a tip. His website is easy, isaacarthur.net. That's what I do to get his Twitter handle. I go over to it is so funny. Futurism with Isaac Arthur, right? I can't remember that, but I can remember isaacarthur.net. I click on that. I go over. I've got his YouTube channel. I've got his social media, and I'm just letting everybody know I do it all the time. So head over to isaacarthur.net. Everything that you need is right there. I didn't have a whole time. Renee, I apologize. You did an amazing job today on the news, but I wasn't here to deal with it. But I did get this from Renee in the breaking news, and I wanted to share this with you because apparently, finally going to check this out. This is Olivia posting my second favorite breakfast cereal, Trader Joe's Maple Pecan Clusters. That right there. Now, don't do no almond milk. You don't want to mess it up with oat milk, which is dirt milk. You don't want to do any of that. You want organic whole milk. You don't play around, ice cold. And that is the best cereal in the world. I will interrupt Fade to Black for Trader Joe's Pecan Crunch, man. Maple pecan, there it is. I love that box. I've got it. You know what? During the break, I'm going to walk into my kitchen, and I'm going to come back with a box of Trader Joe's Maple Pecan. I think that there's a Captain Crunch peanut butter crunch shortage the last month. At my local supermarket, which is a big one, no peanut butter crunch. Now, is it because that everybody shops at the store, listens to the show, and they know about my love for peanut butter crunch, and they get the urge, and there's this mad rush for it at the store? Has it been discontinued? I haven't looked at it in the news. Why is there a Captain Crunch peanut butter crunch shortage? And are you guys having issues in your area? This is actually a very big deal. I think it's a conspiracy, and I want to hear from all of you. So, chat room, Twitter, Facebook, let me know. Somebody text me. Is there some news about peanut butter crunch? Is there a peanut butter shortage? Oh, that would be a disaster, right? Why can I not buy all the Reese's Puffs? Right? Shelves of that. I don't want Reese's Puffs. It's not that good, actually. It looks good on the box, but it's not that good. Peanut butter crunches is the deal. Can't buy it. All right. Now, back to the breaking news. Thank you, Olivia, for interrupting the show. That was totally awesome. Trader Joe's. Breaking news. NASA is not trusting private citizens to travel to the International Space Station alone. Nope. They pumped the brakes on this. So instead, they will be chaperoned by an adult, an experienced NASA professional. New requirements from the agency would mandate that future space tourists, right, would be led by former NASA astronauts, an astronaut. You like that? Hey, Isaac, look at me. Look at me. Nastronaut. Nastronaut. You can use that. You can use that on futurism. A nastronaut. Did you write that down? Okay, he wrote that down. All right, very cool. Yeah, NASA says that the new proposals are lessons learned. Now, I don't know what happened in the first private astronaut mission to the ISS last April. It was complicated. I get all that. It was put together by Axiom Space. But NASA says no more. The crew included Michael Lopez Algiera, a former NASA astronaut and current Axiom Space employee, and 3 civilian crew members. Mistakes happened, and they don't want this to go down anymore. And each one of these crew members reportedly paid $55 million per ticket. That's a lot of money. I mean, not to Isaac Arthur. He's got that big YouTube channel. That's 55 mil, 55 large, but that's a lot of bread, man. That's a lot of ducks quacking in the pond. All right, so NASA's put the brakes on that. On this day in history, 1958, the United States nuclear submarine Nautilus dived at Point Barrow, Alaska, and then traveled nearly 1,000 miles under the Arctic ice cap to reach the top of the world and the geographic North Pole on this day in 1958. Now, I know that you've thought about this. I know that I have. The thought of being in a submarine for 2 or 3 months with a bunch of dudes in a sealed tube just doesn't sound like fun to me. It sounds very claustrophobic. And plus, how are you going to smoke cigars in a submarine? Do they have a cigar room, right? So how do you do that for 3 months? No weed, nothing, right? So you got that issue, number one. But number two, the brainiac that thought of under the Arctic ice for 1,000 miles. How do you know you're not going to get stuck, trapped, frozen, whatever? How do they know it's a clean path? How do they know this? And you're going to volunteer for that? Oh, the crew didn't volunteer. I just thought of that. All right. So that's how they got it done, because I'd be like, no. 1,000 miles under the Arctic ice. It just doesn't sound like a good idea, but they did it all the way back in 1958 on this day. Fader fact. All right. Now, this is a fader fact that I know that I say this every night. This is unbelievable. This is something that has been vetted, and you doubt that it's been vetted because it's too crazy. You just think that I've made it up and that it's a joke and it's humor, and sometimes it is, but they're always pretty unbelievable. This one, and you need to look this one up because it's crazy town, and it's much more detailed than what I'm going to present here. But fader fact, in 1841, France, that's right, almost broke off relations, and they kind of did, and they just rebuilt them. But France almost broke off relations with the Republic of Texas in 1841. They did this due to a hotel owner's marauding pigs. That's right. Those marauding pigs ate the French ambassador. His name was Dubois de Saulny. The French ambassador's sheets, his bed linens. The marauding pigs ate his sheets. That's right. It is known, and this is not a joke, it is known as the Great Pig War of 1841. It's not a joke. Look it up. That is the craziest out of all the Fader facts. And I know what you're doing right now. The Great Pig War, 1841 search. I know what you're doing. It really happened. They had to mend those fences, man. They had to mend those fences. Diplomacy had to step in. Tonight, we welcome very special guest, our good friend Isaac Arthur is back. And tonight, sometimes I did a special 6 weeks ago on time travel, and everybody knows my interest in time travel. We all are interested in time travel. But sometimes I need the scientific mind to bring me back to center, to get me off of the fantasy, right? And just let me know how all of this is possible. Isaac Arthur is here with us tonight. We know that the math says time travel is possible. It's right there. This is not H.G. Wells in 1895, all right, which is still the best time travel story ever. But it's not that. Time travel is real. And tonight, Isaac Arthur is here with us. We'll be talking about all of that. And of course, how he's going to pay for the next astronaut mission as an astronaut for $55 million. There you go. We're going to do all of that and much more tonight with Isaac Arthur. Tomorrow night is another Fader night with open lines all night long. Can you tell I'm in a great mood? I was out in the middle of the desert today in the hot sun, no air conditioning. You saw the video that I posted today. It was incredible. The set, the movie set, the all of that. It was absolutely insane. But we shot in an abandoned home, cabin thing. So apocalyptic. It was so awesome. And there was no power there. It literally in the middle of the desert. I shot a video. So check this out, man. I gotta go. I can't be goofing around like this. But I shot a video of me driving through the desert to get to. Can you see that? Can you see that? That's me driving through the desert. This is just to get to the set. Look at this. And this took like 20 minutes. Open desert. Open desert. Look at this. For miles. No street signs. No directions. No Google Maps, no GPS. Oh, no. Oh, no. And it's a good thing I had a case of water and some fruit snacks in the back just in case. I brought my tire inflation kit and my first aid kit, all of that in the Jeep just in case. That's what I did today, and it was so much fun. All right, rivermoonwellness.com. That's where you get your Fade to Black blend, the best coffee in the world. Click on River Moon Wellness below. The promo code F2B blend will get you 15% off of your order today if you order from the website. If you go over to Amazon from the Amazon store, which is fine, you're going to get free shipping if you're a Prime member. There you go. You can't beat it. Those for the best coffee in the world. Absolutely incredible. Get yours. Click on the link, rivermoonwellness.com. Now, before I bring in Isaac, I just want to say this for a couple of minutes, that I am a member of the media. All right? And TV shows, radio, film, every aspect, whatever on the internet, it's all over the place. But over the last 10 years, especially when we just look at numbers, I'm speaking to literally millions of people. And then you add that up into a week and you just calculate these crazy numbers. Crazy numbers. I'm a member of the media. And we have been talking about UFOs, conspiracy, ET, contact, time travel, these different aspects of our little community for a very long time. And for a big chunk of that, I really felt like I was on my own, in that I couldn't get other members of the media to jump on board. It just I couldn't make it happen. I tried. There's a few other radio hosts out there, and there's some TV shows and things like Ancient Aliens, but that's not what I'm referring to. I'm just talking about the talking heads and those that may or may not have an audience as big as mine. That doesn't matter. But if it's a team effort, if we all get on board, and I just felt like I was on my own. And which, you know what, in the end, I accepted it, and it's fine. I realized early on that they were not going to assist, jump on board, or consider. That's it. They just weren't going to do it. And then over the last 4, going on 5 years since 2017, the media has jumped on board. Not like the way that I do it and to that extent, but they have, and certainly more so than any other point in history. Did they do their job? Right. And I've thought about this a lot. And over the last 6 months or so, I've really been thinking about it, where they were given an opportunity. Any journalist out there, any talking head, any news director, any producer of any of these shows, both on television and radio, if they just reached out, they would have all of the coverage and news and information that they could handle. But nobody wants to do it. You just want for these little tidbits to come along, and they'll cover those, but they won't do it. And they were given an opportunity. They know that the country and the world wants to hear about this subject. They want the news. They know this. The amount of clicks and views that they have gotten on the coverage over the last 5 years should demonstrate that to them. And I can't figure out why. It doesn't make any sense. But as a member of the media, I will never give up. I will never give up. And today on set, and I was just sitting there thinking about this once again. Where are all of my media brothers and sisters? Where are they? Why is it that I've got to be out here on my own? It doesn't make any sense. And others, but in our community. But that's it. Where are they? This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. That's why I thank people like Isaac Arthur. Isaac has championed these subjects and has built a very, very respectable career. Absolutely incredible. So tonight, our guest is Isaac Arthur. We are talking about time travel. All of this going down on the UnX and Game Changer networks. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll be right back after this short break with Isaac Arthur. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black Blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com. Hello, Fadernauts. Jimmy Church here. You've seen me with my Thunderstorm. Now you can purify the air in your home and get healthy, clean, fresh-smelling air and eliminate odors just like I do right here in the bunker. The EdenPURE Thunderstorm uses oxy technology that naturally sends out O3 molecules into the air, which seek out odors and air pollutants in your home and destroys them. It's called a thunderstorm because it purifies the air just like after a thunderstorm. And right now, you can save $200 on an EdenPURE Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. With this special offer, you're getting 3 units for under $200. Seriously. Go to EdenPureDeals.com and use Fader3. Shipping is free, and it's easy. Just scroll down. You'll see my name right there, Jimmy Church. Click on it and get your deal today. That's EdenPureDeals.com.
Do you have an interest in the paranormal? Then you'll love the UnXNetwork.com. The X is your streaming audio and video for everything supernatural, strange, and mysterious, like UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, and so much more. From hosts like Jimmy Church, Whitley Strieber, Micah Hanks, and Christina Gomez. Visit the UnXNetwork.com show page for a complete list of all the paranormal programs you'll find on the X. Be sure to follow us on Twitter for updates at KUNXDB. Follow our Facebook group, UnX Network. Find the podcast on Spotify, iHeart, Audible, and Apple Podcast. It's time.
It's new.
It's the X.
Right now, the world couldn't be more chaotic. History shows us what gold does when the world goes crazy. It goes up in value. Right now, we're in unprecedented times. The pandemic, the war in Ukraine, the devaluation of the U.S. dollar. Gold and other precious metals are a defense measure against the hyperinflation that's happening right now. So, what can you do to protect yourself? Call my friend Alan Johnson at United Gold Group. He's dedicated to helping people secure their retirement income. He'll help you with gold, with silver, and other precious metals, and show you how to set up your own self-directed IRA. Safe and secure, United Gold Group makes gold ownership easy and affordable. There couldn't be a better time, so call now and get a silver American Eagle proof set with a qualified IRA. Call 800-753-8534. That's 800-753-8534 or visit UnitedGoldGroup.com. Reach out to my friend, Alan Johnson.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, it's time travel. We've got Isaac Arthur here with us. And Isaac, of course, is the host of Science and Futurism with Isaac Arthur on YouTube, with 700,000 subscribers, covering topics like colonizing the solar system, interstellar travel, the Fermi paradox, artificial intelligence, and other topics representing possible future paths and challenges for ET. Oh, humanity. I think he meant to. He wants to say ET. One day, I need to get Isaac over the edge, and I've got a plan, and I'm going to make it happen. He received his degree in physics from Kent State University, graduating top of his class at the age of 20, and he remained there for graduate studies before joining the U.S. Army, serving in Iraq. He also worked, note this, as a civilian researcher at the Air Force Institute of Technology in Dayton, Ohio, where they've got the bodies buried. IsaacArthur.net is the website, and I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black. And, you know, I tease. I have fun with this because I have such mad respect for you, Isaac. Welcome back to the show. How are you, my friend?
Doing great, Jimmy. So glad to be back on.
Man. You know what? Tonight we're discussing breakfast cereals with Isaac Arthur. But here's the thing. Let me tell you, we all have those fond, warm, fuzzy memories. Christmas when you're 5, right? And those things. And when you need that comfortable place, that zone, that's where you go. Not me. Oh, no. You know what I do? I go back to Isaac Arthur saying, the Fermi paradox, great filter number 560. And you get to that point where you're at the Fermi paradox when you're approaching filter 1000. That's my warm, fuzzy place, Isaac. I just want to let you know that.
It's always a fun topic, and I'm amazed that to this day we still keep finding other filters or other ways that might be getting around those filters. It would be so nice if we could actually get some additional data from out beyond this planet to help us narrow some of those down a bit more. So
it's right around the corner, my friend. You know it. There is a lot of action going on in the world of science and astrophysics and physics, and it's a very exciting time. And it seems to be like a snowball, right? Mm-hmm. It's just getting bigger and it's out of control. And we're at the bottom of the hill, and here it comes. And I think it's going to hit us from multiple fronts. But before we get started, I wasn't kidding about the breakfast cereals thing. So I just, somebody just tweets out, a breakfast cereal box. I lose my mind. And the next thing you know, chat room, Twitter, everything is all about cereals. People love their cereal, whatever it is. What's yours? What's your go-to?
Life cereal and Raisin Bran usually.
Yeah,
I can't do peanut butter anymore. So
right. Hey, let me tell you something. Raisin Bran is a good day. Mm-hmm. Life, Cinnamon Life. You know what? And I like them both the same. It's equal. It doesn't matter. I can go down either path there. But Life and Cinnamon Bran. I'm right there with you, man. Good choices. Very impressive.
Very much. Always more of a cereal and evenings person than the power breakfast in the mornings get you going. So.
That's you got to balance life out. It's part of the food pyramid, right? It's part of the food pyramid. Isaac, here's the thing. When you have done as many shows as you have, and you are exposed to different topics that it's very easy in your world because that's a spider web. You're off on one little thing, whether it's a colony, super ships out heading. That discussion right there gives you 150 topics just on that, right? It just you can go on forever.
Mm-hmm. Folks occasionally ask what up for episodes. Like, are we going to run out of material? It's like, well, no, I do a show on futurism, so probably not. There's always more of it. And,
ever. And
you can do an entire career just talking about one little piece of history or one little piece of the world for years. We have everything in all of time and the universe to talk about. So
you did a run. This was a few years ago, and this is how excited I am about your stuff. You did a series of colonizing our planets and the moon just here in our solar system, right?
Yep.
And that on the surface, that sounds like the most boring and dumbest idea ever. It does, right? Man, you had me. I'm just like, so how would you call it? Is it possible? Mercury. Oh yeah, sure. We can get that done. And this is how you do it. And that's the point that I'm making here, that these, whatever the subject is, there is such an in-depth discussion to be had there. And that series of colonizing our solar system was amazing. And it's just one little sliver of an idea of the future. It's absolutely incredible. So to that end, enough of the accolades. Okay, the bromance is over. Let's get serious. Yeah, it was fun. Raisin Bran. But here's the thing. The world of science fiction, the world of gaming, science fiction in the past, in the deep past, we went through romantic periods of space exploration. But once we got to the moon, there's not much to fantasize, about. You can expand on it, but the authors and the writers and the creators, they've got to move on to the next fantasy, right? What is it? And I think that there's two subjects that are the most fun because we haven't tackled them yet. The multiverse and time travel. And that's the majority of the movies and the books and the things and the games and stuff, that this is what they deal with because we haven't, well, officially that we know of, we haven't tackled it yet. Mm-hmm. And what is it about time travel that is so frigging romantic? It is such a glorious thing to wish for and ponder about. What is it about time travel?
I think the biggest thing, and it does relate to the multiverse, is it lets you do that what if. The what if I had done X, or what if I could go back and redo Y? And say, depending on which time travel you're talking about, it may be impossible to change the future, or it could be very easy to change it, but now your new timeline. And so could I go back and erase, this event? Could I go back in time and invest in that stock right before it went big? Go back in my Microsoft or Google shares. Could I go back and warn someone before they got cancer, for instance? There's so many things there in the whole nature of the what if continuum that, you say, well, let's explore the final frontiers of space. You say, well, what about the final frontier of all the different options, all the different ways things could have unfolded? And in that way, it is kind of the ultimate tool for imagination and for options available, because it is literally just a question of what if.
Do you find that your audience does that too as well? You just you say the word time travel, and right, everybody pops to attention, and so if you mention, next week we're gonna start a series on time travel, right? Is that the most response that you get from your audience? Do you feel it too?
They usually like it. It tends to be one of some of the more popular episodes, the alien life in general, colonizing planets. But we usually do one episode on time travel, one episode on the moon, and one episode on Mars every year, just kind of out of habit. And obviously, I wouldn't bother redoing them if people were bored of them. But they do. I mean, that's a topic that we all love. It doesn't even matter how campy or unplausible the movie is. We just love the alternate histories aspect. We, give people a reason to watch it that doesn't make them have complete, disbelief of it, some suspension going on, and they're going to enjoy the film because of the what if this and because of the strangeness of it. It's like time travel makes sense in most of the movies or TV shows that use it. It's usually really badly designed from the scientific perspective, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter because it's just asking that what if question. Watch something like Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, and worry about whether or not it's breaking relativity.
Right. Well, look at Doctor Strange, right? That show has been on the air since before television was invented, right? And so if we look at it in those terms, that's a TV show about time travel that first aired when Lincoln was president.
I think it probably, the first aired in the year 2100, then the second episode was in the year 1800. That's how it works. Well, and there are no time travel jokes that are any good. It's weird because you think that time travel jokes would be the ones that have the most time to refine them and make them good, but every time travel joke is awful, just awful.
I'm trying my best, man.
Yeah.
I'm trying my best.
I was going to tell a time travel joke, but you didn't like it.
Dude, I got sent that 3 times today. Twice in email and once on social media. And it never gets old. But it's really true, right? I think that all of us recognize our own personal mistakes, blatant, stupid things that we had done in our past that we knew that we shouldn't have done, whether it was skipping school, maybe doing more of your homework, the girl or guy that got away, crashing your parents' car, whatever it is that you could go, I should have ran a little more track, whatever it is that there's that part of it. I keep saying romantic, but it is because it gets that part of your thought process.
People mostly aren't thinking about using it like, could I go back in time and keep myself from getting, that speeding ticket where I could just gone 5 miles an hour slower? They really think very big, e.g., could I go get those winning lottery numbers? Or they are thinking, I want to go back in time and change that personal thing. That breakup that didn't need to have happened or could have happened better. That friend that I end up having a fight with who doesn't talk to me anymore because of blah. And that's the things people tend to forget. I go back in time and say goodbye to your grandpa right before he passed on. That's what people think of. And of course, the downside of that is from the physical reality, and instead you get a grandfather paradoxes where you go back in time and actually kill your grandpa and end up becoming your grandpa because for some reason they always have weird antics going on in time travel. So
now, okay, this is a good point to establish a few things because we're going to go into different directions tonight, different versions of time travel. So let's get into some basic classifications. And once you mention the grandfather paradox, and every physicist does when this comes up, it's one of the first things. But then once you jump into that, then there's the possibility of paradoxes maybe being impossible, that they couldn't happen. Now, let's talk about different versions of time travel. When I mention it to you, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Usually, closed time-like loops, or you can go back in time to whenever you started your machine working, so you can change time only after you made the machine, or splitting off into another universe where it's just I go back in time and I shoot Hitler, and now that different war period of time, that timeline is separate, but there's the one that I didn't do it in that I came from. I haven't re-looped time, I've just gone into another timeline.
Now, both of those versions would require a machine or a device.
Probably, yeah. I mean, there could be a natural phenomena that would do that. I suppose if it was possible, you could even rule out that something might develop that as an evolutionary process. Mechanism.
That's another type of time travel. Mm-hmm. So what I'm establishing here out of the gate is there's the version of time travel, H.G. Wells, where you've got a machine or a device, you're going backwards or forwards in time, and there's that version of time travel. Mm-hmm. Another version of time travel would be what?
You'd have the one where you could do some kind of mental process, like we always saw in that Quantum Leap show with, oh my God, I've forgotten his name. Scott Bakula. He was starting that, and he somehow jumped back into people's previous bodies and lived inside them. That one would be probably outside the normal zone of science, but it's an option. And a lot of them all kind of on the edge of science.
And then we have Einstein's.
Einstein Rosenbridge. Yeah.
Yes. As we get into that, was all of that math interpreted later? I mean, Einstein never mentioned time travel. right? He didn't use those words. This was an interpretation of his math and equations, right?
Well, to be fair, it was Emily Noether's math that was mostly he was having problems solving general relativity, and it's general relativity, not special relativity, where the time travel options come up, and that's what they called it. Emily Noether. She was the one who came up with most of the math for that, but not all of it though. But he did mention time travel, I think, here and there, but he never really did focus on it. Usually in his era was more of a just checking stuff theoretically, and I don't think they were trying to look to cause a controversial storm. And time travel is something people either react to with amusement and interest, or with a complete rejection on the face of it, kind of like with life extension. So I can't say that he never talked about it in detail, but I'm not thinking of any particular occasion he did. So in the case of the ones that he was looking at, that's kind of your wormhole back in time case, which is basically where you are bending time a very great deal, or as what's his name, Ron Mallett likes to twisting time, as opposed to bending it, and those are options too. And inside that one, it's usually I tend to object to it because it was what I call math based. It's not physics based. You can have a negative cup of water in math. You don't actually have a negative cup of water in the physical universe. And a lot of cases with exotic matter, like negative matter or things like that, it's not that they couldn't exist in theory. It's that you don't really see examples of those, and they tend to rely on things that happen in math but don't necessarily happen in the physical universe. And we do tend to sometimes make the mistake of assuming that math describes the universe, as opposed to simply being something that physics uses to help it process known data.
And then we have black holes.
Mm-hmm.
And now this is for me. I mean, the way that we're going to talk about Kip Thorne a few times tonight for sure. The way that it's presented in Interstellar is pretty interesting. And now, obviously, with a black hole, I'll let you describe this. You kind of have two options. You can go up to the edge and take a peek and then put things in reverse before things get out of control, right? And you are time traveling at that point. Or you can pass through it and take your chances. And both versions of it were in Interstellar. What do you make of that? Do you think that is a viable option for time travel in the future if we ever get a chance to cruise up to the edge of a black hole? That's if CERN and the Large Hadron Collider doesn't make a black hole for us before then.
Well, if it does end up making if it does make a black hole on this planet and it actually causes damage to the Earth, our theories on black holes are so wrong that we couldn't really be thinking much else forgiving, because they're supposed to explode when they get made at very tiny sizes almost instantly, which is potentially very handy for power and weaponry too. But the really big black holes, not the ones that get made by dying stars, but the ones you find like the centers of galaxies, those you can actually get close enough to that you're not getting ripped apart by the tidal forces. It's a weird thing. The smaller they are, the more dangerous they are to you as near them. At those, you can slow down your time so that you can pass forward in time very quickly. And of course, there's the notion you can use that to potentially dip underneath the curve and somehow power out of it afterwards and go backward in time too. That's inside that zone of iffy math zone. But the other idea is usually that you're going to drop down to the center of the black hole, and you can have some exotic matter, usually negative matter, that's pushing back to keep a doorway open, as it were. And you could fall through that and emerge either in a different location in the universe or a different time in the universe, or both. And if that works, that's your classic wormhole, though there are like 5 or 6 different types of wormholes too. And those don't necessarily come back into our universe either, which is another one. You might already have gone into a parallel universe. Then they might be one way, they might be 2-way. There are so many ifs on that math. But
yeah,
in case of one like that, yeah.
Were you Kip Thorne's book, The Science of Interstellar, is absolutely required reading for anybody in this community, and certainly if you're interested in the subject. And then you can go back and watch Interstellar again and understand the importance of Kip Thorne, who developed the film. He wasn't brought in as this is a film project that he had shopped and worked on for years and years. Mm-hmm. And he talks about that in the book. So anyway, this just wasn't a Christopher Nolan film out of the gate. This was something that Kip Thorne had developed with his partner. Is this Matthew McConaughey passes through the black hole and is not spaghettified?
Mm-hmm.
And Kip Thorne describes in the book how this is possible. It goes against the grain of everything else that we understand about black holes up to this point. Were you okay with that? That he didn't have a helmet on, right? He didn't have anything, and the ship dissolves, right?
There's no problem passing into one if a few different things occur. One, you've got one that's just so big, again, like the galactic center ones, that you're not actually being torn apart by tidal forces themselves. And again, they don't, million mass black holes, and these do exist, right? Well, at least we assume so. The evidence is very solid.
We have
the other
one.
Way, yeah,
we have
yes.
one.
Probably several larger ones throughout the galaxy too, in the tens of thousands of solar masses range. And because our galaxy is such a cannibal, it's like 50 different galaxies in here. But the other option, of course, would be that, as we say, you wrap yourself, or you wrap the wormhole pathway in an exotic matter, like negative matter, if you've got it. And then there is one other one that you can use in a case like that's always worth mind. We think that it might be possible to do a wormhole that was very tiny, like just enough to be able to get a signal through, as it were. Well, if you have sufficient technology, you can transmit all the data that a person's made up out of and reassemble them on the other side. Well, if information is preserved and it falls through a black hole, you can conceivably pull that information out either on the other end of the wormhole, no matter how much the person was ripped to pieces by it, or potentially in some versions, it could be moving over time as the black hole evaporates. And there's again a lot of different ways that the data might happen on those until we actually get up and examine a black hole or make one in the lab, which will actually probably happen sooner, I guess. We're not really going to be able to confirm these yet, but that would be the options available. And yeah, he goes through, I can't remember which ones he discusses besides the main one, but I think the one from Interstellar was just a very large black hole.
Yeah, I forget the name of it. Giganticon, or
yeah, that was probably it was something that meant big. But
let me ask you this before the break. We've got about 45 seconds. With what you know now, and you're in Sagittarius A, right? You're there. You're at you're looking down the center of our black hole. Do you cruise through it? Do you feel like you would survive? Are you okay with that?
I don't think I'd survive. I think that you'd fall through that black hole and eventually end up inside a boiling hot mass at the center after you will eventually kill it on the fall down. But I tend to think of black holes of that size as more useful for building giant shells around as opposed to dumping stuff down. I like them for power plants and planets, giant planets. Better than time travel in that regard.
Okay, 15 seconds. When you look at a black hole from the side, we know what we see from the front, right? Yeah. It's black. It's void of light.
Mm-hmm.
From the side, is it just completely flat?
No. They're three-dimensional. That's the tricky part about so many visuals.
It's a black ball?
It's a black sphere, yeah, out to the event horizon, and inside it's a glowing hot mass that you can't see. And then around it, though, you get the accretion disk. And It's just kind of the nature of these things. They almost always end up disk-like for the same reason planetary solar systems or galaxies tend to disk out a lot. That's something you don't see with dark matter, for instance, which is why don't see anything with dark matter, but why that's more spherical.
As they're chewing up and eating and sucking in everything, they're just growing in mass.
Yeah. They grow in mass, and they give off tons of radiation just outside the event horizon as things fall in and basically go nuclear levels of energy before they hit the event horizon.
Hawking radiation, right?
No, that's slightly different. We'll have to get the one after the break. But
why are you so smart, man? Why is that?
Not as smart as either the gentleman we were discussing, though. Kip Thorne is a brilliant man.
Let's take our break right here. I met him. Did I ever tell you my Stephen Hawking story?
Nope.
All right, I'll share that with you after the break. It's not as exciting as you would think, but it was pretty cool. I talked to him. I did. He asked me if I was a cop. He typed it out on his screen. Are you a cop? I'm not making that up. This is Fade to Black. I'm your Jimmy Church. Tonight, Isaac Arthur is with us. We are talking time travel. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this short break. This is Fade to Black.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Hello, Fadernauts. Jimmy Church here. You've seen me with my Thunderstorm. Now you can purify the air in your home and get healthy, clean, fresh-smelling air and eliminate odors just like I do right here in the bunker. The EdenPURE Thunderstorm uses oxy technology that naturally sends out O3 molecules into the air, which seek out odors and air pollutants in your home and destroys them. It's called a thunderstorm because it purifies the air just like after a thunderstorm. And right now, you can save $200 on an EdenPURE Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. With this special offer, you're getting 3 units for under $200. Seriously. Go to EdenPureDeals.com and use Fader3. Shipping is free and it's easy. Just scroll down. You'll see my name right there, Jimmy Church. Click on it and get your deal today. That's EdenPureDeals.com.
Do you have an interest in the paranormal? Then you'll love the UnXNetwork.com. The X is your streaming audio and video for everything supernatural, strange, and mysterious, like UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, and so much more. From hosts like Jimmy Church, Whitley Strieber, Micah Hanks, and Christina Gomez. Visit the UnXNetwork.com show page for a complete list of all the paranormal programs you'll find on the X. Be sure to follow us on Twitter for updates at KUNXDB. Follow our Facebook group, UnX Network. Find the podcast on Spotify, iHeart, Audible, and Apple Podcast. It's time.
It's new.
It's the X.
Right now, the world couldn't be more chaotic. History shows us what gold does when the world goes crazy. It goes up in value. Right now, we're in unprecedented times. The pandemic, the war in Ukraine, the devaluation of the U.S. dollar. Gold and other precious metals are a defense measure against the hyperinflation that's happening right now. So, what can you do to protect yourself? Call my friend Alan Johnson at United Gold Group. He's dedicated to helping people secure their retirement income. He'll help you with gold, with silver, and other precious metals, and show you how to set up your own self-directed IRA. Safe and secure, United Gold Group makes gold ownership easy and affordable. There couldn't be a better time, so call now and get a silver American Eagle proof set with a qualified IRA. Call 800-753-8534. That's 800-753-8534 or visit UnitedGoldGroup.com. Reach out to my friend, Alan Johnson.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Isaac Arthur is with us. And I always, I don't want to be so cavalier, but I always feel a little smarter and a little bit better as a human being after Isaac is on the show with us. And we're doing that tonight with time travel. And now, let's get into the facts of the case. And then we'll branch off. But Isaac, time travel is absolutely 100%. Traveling to the future is not only possible, but we could do it today. Let me ask you this question. Why don't we, like right now, starting tomorrow, why don't we build a dragster funny car of a spaceship right now in low Earth orbit, nothing but engine, throw a couple of astronauts on it, and blast that thing out to Pluto and back, and check the clocks? We could do that tomorrow. We literally could do that tomorrow. Voyager, how many years did it take to go interstellar, right? And that was just giving it a little gas and pointing it in a direction. I think, 17,000 miles per hour or whatever it was. But build a ship, a couple of seats with two engines on the back. That's it, right? and just go and as fast as we can, and then measure the clocks and do an experiment. And
we have done that with even with aircraft planes. We just we put an atomic clock on it, flown around the world, and seen if it matched up the estimates. We did, but those were atomic clocks being off by not even a nanosecond.
Yeah, a millionth of a second. Yeah. But you know what why don't we do that? That sounds like a pretty fun experiment. No harm, no foul. Just 5 years in space. Go out 2.5 years in one direction, 2.5 years back.
I should probably point out that's what they did at the beginning of Planet of the Apes, the original film, was they had a ship get out of control and too fast, and it ended up in the future. But I think the problem is, until you get up to a decent fraction of light speed, and Voyager, I can't remember the exact speed, but 70,000 miles per hour, that's good enough. The speed of light is 10 times that per second as opposed to per hour. So, the speed of light is 186,000 miles per second. And we don't get anywhere close to that. That thing kind of scales up with not quite the square. It's 1 minus the square root. Square root of 1 minus the square of the speed relative to light, but the Lorentz factor. And that thing goes slowly. So even when you're up to, I think it's 86% of the speed of light, that's when you finally hit the point that time would be moving at half speed. And to do that, what you need is either antimatter in large quantities, a black hole Hawking radiation-based ship drive, which is different than the normal type of radiation of a black hole, or if you don't have antimatter or black holes, you can use gigantic lasers, the kind that you would for a manned ship like that. You'd probably need ones that could cut grooves inside planets in terms of how much energy they put out, which works for me. I love gigantic lasers and think they're all future for space travel, but you might have a little bit of problem funding that one at the moment, and it might cause some international tensions.
Yeah, but okay. Don't ruin this for me, Isaac. Okay, let's try this again. Was that a gallon-sized coffee cup? Hold that up again. Holy smokes, you don't play around. Okay, and it's coffee too. I know it is, right? Yeah. Okay. But let's say if just a nice, not that fast, 250,000 miles per hour, right? Oumuamua speed, and out to Pluto, and turn around and come back. And at 250,000 miles per hour, you're not talking about that much time to get out to the edge and turn around and come back. But to come back and your watch, your calendar on the ship, you've been gone for 5 years, but you come back 6 months in the future. Wouldn't that be a pretty interesting experiment that we could actually do right now? I honestly think that's something that we should do. It's right within our grasp.
If we, I mean, Pete Warden from Breaks to Straw Shot, that's the ones where I use the big laser beam to send little chip-sized, space probes to other solar systems. Those only go to about 30% of light speed tops, and they require a pretty big array of lasers to get that little tiny chip that weighs like 1 gram up to speed. I can't remember what the actual weight is. It might be more than that, but it's problematic. But even 250,000 miles an hour, and we might be able to build a shapeship. We could build a ship probably that could go that fast if we want to throw money at it. Problem is that's still not even 1,000th the speed of light. And because again, it covers out much time, that much in like about a second and a half is how fast I would usually cover that distance per hour instead. And that means it's going to take a couple years to get out to Pluto, I think, at that point still. Although I'm running the numbers in my head and I ain't that good at math. But your time dilation at something like that is still going to be like 1/1,000,000th of a second slower per second. You're going to like go around 1,000,000 years and lose a few minutes or something like that, or a few years. It's not going to be that much of a changeover. You really have to get to the extreme end of relativistic speeds, special relativity or general relativity. And kind of a context on this, we can calculate your speed in terms of how fast you're slowing time down by your speed away from something. When you took the gravity angle, you look at like black holes, for instance, if you know the escape velocity of that object from wherever you are relative to it, usually that's going to be very loosely correlating to the time dilation as well. So if you know something would be 86% of the speed of light to get you out of thing's gravity well, which would be very close to a black hole or maybe right near a neutron star, that would be half speed. The time would be going about that speed for you. So only with the really huge black holes and right near them are you ever going to be able to actually get away with going significantly slower. If you want to go fast forward in time, your best route is probably just to have yourself frozen and hope on the other end of that they have the technology to resurrect you and time travel and send you back home. But I think there's got to be at least a few people who've already tried that trick and they never seem to show up here. So probably not that particular type of time travel being allowed.
Okay. Just put on your fun hat for a second. And I know that you have one. Is it possible when we talk about alternate timelines and everything, do you think it might be possible that some of these ghosts and these interdimensional things that we see from time to time, maybe time travelers observing us?
Yeah, I mean that is it's easy to say no on something like that. I'm going to guess the answer probably is no, but yeah, those are definitely options. You get a lot of people seeing a lot of strange things, and again, I don't like to ever, as a scientist, say, "Oh yes, that's what's happening." But on the other hand, I do not like the tendency over to just be like, "Oh no, that definitely isn't. No, definitely not that phenomena." Anybody can just say no about stuff like that. We don't know what these phenomena are. Probably a lot of them are not what people are assuming they are. And a lot of them probably are totally mundane, but a lot of them maybe aren't.
There's a conversation, let's stay right here, that seems to be bubbling to the surface in military circles, that these objects, not all of them, but some of them, these UAPs, may be us, right? Maybe us from the future.
Yeah.
And that's a crazy conversation. And if the Department of Defense is suddenly mentioning this as a possibility, do they know something that we don't? I mean, could that be this part of the UFO phenomena?
I never trust the Department of Defense to know anything very long on its own without it leaking out. But it's I have a lot of friends who work with them, and I feel like I'd probably know if something like that specifically were going on. But at the same time, I can't remember what Aeon Flux, the old TV show on MTV, Aeon Flux. They're like last episode, they have some aliens that have arrived, and they find out later on in a typically trippy episode that it wasn't really aliens, it was time travelers from the future that they thought were aliens. There's another one from that period. We call it Light Years in the U.S., but it's called Gandahar originally. It's a film where, again, they get the invasion backward in time from themselves. It's aliens, but that's what they get as originally. And one of my upcoming episodes, I do a time travel episode every year, and sometime this month we got the Time Wars and alternate timelines one coming out. And I say, if in the future I have a time machine, what do? Do I colonize, I can travel to a different multiverse, I can travel back in time, or I could travel to other stars. You're never going to find an easier or better place to colonize than a copy of your planet where humans just never arrived, right? Which should be tons and tons of them. So why aren't you invading backwards in time to some copy of your planet that doesn't have life, or just before it actually showed up, say 3 million years ago, before there were humans around, apparently? That would be the option you'd expect. And I won't spoil it because I have a good innie on that one, but it tends to show why, even if you could pull this off, it would not work out very well.
Why is that? That's a do-over, right? That's a bona fide do-over.
Oh, right. So I might as well. I'm not going to tease people with it, but let's say that I go ahead and I go back in time, right? And there's a million different timelines in the next second in which I either did or didn't do that if I had the machine. Right. So let's say that there's a few million where I just waited one more second before I invaded back in time, right? Different versions of reality. And we all go back to the original time we were planning to arrive at, say, 1 million years ago to invade the place and take it over. And we all arrive at the same moment. And each of those timelines would also have had us, say, bringing an army back in time or fleets. And these exponentially increase. So next moment, there's another billion of these timelines. And these are very tiny numbers compared to reality, but too, because they are trillions of timelines just spun out for you any given nanosecond.
Correct.
So what ends up happening is you would have, if you can actually add matter in the past, you could just walk through yourself, right? And making that area more massive. There's now more mass on the surface of that planet you're invading. Well, if 10 quadrillion of you arrive with battle fleets and soldiers to take over the past and add mass to that planet, it turns into a black hole. So it might be one of those examples, and this happens a lot with time travel. When you follow it forward, through all the bits, you find some unavoidable paradox or problem you can't get around to. Not exclusively, but that one is, even if time travel works, you invade the past to seize the best time for it, and you have so many people flooding back from alternate timelines in that place that you collapse it as a black hole.
Okay, I love this subject, and let me tell you why. This is where, to me, I'm just going to piss off half of my audience right now. This is where Star Trek has got it completely wrong. And let me explain, because it doesn't make any sense. If you're warp driving at the speed of light all over the universe, you have no idea what point in time you've left or have arrived in. And everybody else on those ships, right, in the Starfleet, is doing the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. So you go and you split Earth and you warp drive out to Andromeda and back. You're not arriving back when you left. You're 500,000 years off, right? It's this. And if here's the thing, you're doing it like this all over a galaxy all the time. How do you even know where you are at? And it's something that's not addressed. No. Where are you at a point in time after doing that for a month?
I do not know how it is that Star Trek always had the reputation as the more scientific of the sci-fi genre, although they were probably a little bit better about it than Star Wars or Doctor Who, but a lot of the science talk is just randomly made up nonsense. I love the show, but I'll go back and watch something like TNG and I have no idea what you just made that up. That makes quantum something, right? It makes no sense. But one thing that we have to keep in mind with these kind of time travel events is that if you're traveling faster than light, you almost inevitably time travel. The simple one is you say you got the classic wormhole gates. I make two gates right next to each other. Step through one, and I merge through the other. Now, I take one of those into the wormhole, and I drag it up to very fast speeds. Again, time is going slower as I move this thing. So it's only experienced, say, 1 year when I get to my destination, whereas back home, 2 years have passed.
That's correct.
I step through that wormhole, and I emerge 1 year in the future, whereas I left 2 years ago. And if I bring that wormhole's mouth back to where I started off from, I did drink it there, I take it back,
right?
Bam. And that's specifically is the closed time-like curve that we talk about with Einstein and the twin paradoxes, right? Now I can step in that thing, and I step back out 2 years ago. But I can only do that as long as the mouth of the wormhole actually existed. This is allowed under general relativity, though, as Hawking said, I think, what's it called? The chronology protection conjecture. It was basically the idea that even if something allows time travel in general relativity, but if that violates the other areas of physics, which we know better anyway, doesn't necessarily mean it happens. And this is exactly a problem with the wormholes or the closed time-like loops, is that you can do this on paper, where you move that wormhole mouth and back again, but it shouldn't actually work, because then you have paradoxes. Presumably people are already doing this. And if that's the case, then there must be something that makes that impossible.
Well, I forget the physicist about 10 years ago that laid out those numbers to move the exit and the entrance of the wormhole next to each other, depending on the size of the wormhole and the length of it. But you pass in, you go into the entrance, you come out the other side, and you are younger. All of the synchronized watches and clocks, you have your witnesses. The watch on your hand doesn't change. You pass through the wormhole. Everything is still synchronized, but you come out younger, right? It's a younger version of you. Here's the thing. Do you come out of the exit younger, which is fine, and the math supports this, which is the astonishing thing. But do you come out with the memory and the knowledge that you went in with?
No.
That's that. Oh, so
no, everything your memory, to the best of our knowledge, and again, there's a lot we don't know about the human mind, so maybe your memory is stored other than just on neurons. But if I just gone back and moved time backward for every cell in your body, every atom in your body, that includes your memory. It includes all the photons that hit your neurons and so forth. So if you are de-aging somebody, they should be losing their memories, unless you're de-aging them by cellular repair, which is not what time travel should do.
See, you killed it for me again. You took out the romantic side of this, because isn't that what you would want to do, right? Repeat that a couple of times. You're acquiring knowledge, right? And you come back out the younger version. Now you're virtually immortal. Again, the clocks, the what, nothing is changing, but you're becoming younger. Well, it's only fun if you get to remember and retain your knowledge.
The very last episode of Stargate SG-1, they're trying to figure out a way why one of the characters isn't supposed to age very quickly, is suddenly getting gray hair after 10 years on the show. They all have they experience 50 years in time, and then they have to go back in time to fix the problem finally if they figure out how the solution is. And great episode too. It's one of the best closes of sci-fi. One of them has to stay behind to remember the whole thing and has to de-age, and it's him, so he ends up with a gray hair at the end of it. That was Teal'c, and for SG-1 fans, I love that show. It's my
you're right. That was a great ender. Okay, SG Universe was the best.
It was good, but it because it died 2 seasons in. I loved the entire franchise, but I really wished we got another season or two.
And see, this is the thing. This is what's messed up about Stargate Universe. It was the perfect cliffhanger. It was the way to end the second season for season 3, and we didn't get it, right? That was messed up. And that was the best. That was the best computer generated graphics. That was some of the best script writing. It didn't have the cheesy TV factor in its production. I mean, it was really.
It felt high budget. Yeah. I think and it's a great end for a season too. You might be getting canceled because it's the old Blake 7 rule is you can always bring it back afterwards. They all died in stasis, so whoever doesn't want to come back, either we saw the show back up 10 years later. Oh, the life support tubes, which is already established in this, Stargate Universe, did partially malfunction. Half of them died. The ones who didn't want to come back, and the rest of you have aged. So you've also put on weight for some reason. But that's what it is.
Right. And this was the crazy thing. I mean, the season 3 would have written itself. The whole point of SG Universe was they were chasing down a signal at the beginning of everything. Right. And that was the journey. They're trying to get to the signal to see who is sending it. Right. Well, it's easy. It writes itself. Let's go. Get season 3 done and resolve it. But I wanted to know what that signal was. That was great. And it's the other part, and we got to move on. The ship, if you remember,
I love that ship.
On the back part of the ship was a Mayan pyramid. You don't remember that?
I'm kind of there wasn't there? Yeah,
it was a Mayan pyramid. It was a Mayan pyramid, Now, how important is it to have, and this is the next segment, we're doing a setup. How important is it to have somebody like you and other scientific minds, professionals, to help with the facts in the case, like Kip Thorne in Interstellar, for video games, for books, for movies. I think that we are smarter now as an audience, and I think we're okay with digesting the science now. So let's try to keep it on point. How important is that? I mean, that's part of the things that you actually do.
I mean, given that I started the show kind of as a not with any intention of turning into a show, as a kind of here's some interesting ideas for sci-fi writers I've been talking to at the time, so I'd have to keep repeating myself to them all. I would say it's very, very important. However, I would also say that the most important things about writing sci-fi is, for us, like anything, the story's got to be mostly about the characters. If your plot and your characters don't work, it doesn't matter how good you are. It should never be about exposition. And second on the end of that is that people want whatever you're telling them to either be flagged as saying this is the sci-fi part, or they want you to do your research. It doesn't have to be about physics. You can be doing an entire one on metallurgy or psychology. These are good sci-fi topics. Whatever you decide to go in depth on, and people like a little bit of real science in depth in their sci-fi, do it right. You know, it doesn't have to overwhelm everything, but make sure you're right on that topic. If you choose to delve into it at all, make it right. On the other stuff, though, yeah, you get a lot of bends and stuff. Like, I love the movie Inception, same guy who did Interstellar, and the science of that is bad. That's not how the brain works, but it's a great movie, you know. At least I thought it was a great movie.
And what'd you think about Everything Everywhere All at Once and the new Doctor Strange Multiverse, where there was elements of science in both of them. There was more in Everything Everywhere All at Once. But what did you make of that? And do you think that these kinds of things are possible?
I mean, with Doctor Strange, probably not. I'm a huge Marvel Comics fan since long before the MCU. But I can say long before. It's been back in the 40s they've been around. But since the 90s, I've loved Marvel Comics. And they never really do the science very well. But they're a great example of that sheer complexity of world building, where even though, you know, as long as you keep your established canon side of the thing reasonably well, same with like Star Wars and the Legends universe, or Warhammer 40K, or a bunch of the other like huge franchises. They are amazing for their own depth and consistency. It doesn't really matter that much that they mess up on the science a lot or just make it up as they go. They are consistent inside themselves. And that's probably the most important thing. You say, if your science is bad and people don't like your first book or whatever it is, then that's what happened, right? If, on the other hand, your book was so well and popular that the people have time to dissect it because they want sequels, then those are what we call success sales. You can go ahead and fix them up afterwards because you obviously did something that was so good that people don't really mind it. You know, you don't watch Flash Gordon or Star Wars because you're looking for great science.
What? Flash Gordon? Okay, you need to slow down now. You need to pump the brakes. Flash Gordon was science fact. But here,
I love that
me too. And but here's the thing, and we've got to take a break. In Doctor Strange, it was nothing but a string of paradoxes that absolutely made everything impossible. Mm-hmm. It was ignored. And you kind of have to do that as a viewer. You have to just, you know, some things you just have to let rinse down the drain and don't concentrate on it. But Everything Everywhere All at Once was the opposite of that. I felt that the paradox issue was completely avoided, which made it a little bit more believable from a scientific standpoint.
I've not seen it.
What?
I've not seen that. I'm always behind on things. So I've seen Doctor Strange, but
take our break right here so I can scold Isaac during the break. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Isaac Arthur and time travel. We'll be right back after this short break. On the Game Changer and UNX Networks, I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX-DB, VX.
Hello, Fadernauts. Jimmy Church here. You've seen me with my Thunderstorm. Now you can purify the air in your home and get healthy, clean, fresh-smelling air and eliminate odors just like I do right here in the bunker. The EdenPURE Thunderstorm uses oxy technology that naturally sends out O3 molecules into the air, which seek out odors and air pollutants in your home and destroys them. It's called a thunderstorm because it purifies the air just like after a thunderstorm. And right now, you can save $200 on an EdenPURE Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. With this special offer, you're getting 3 units for under $200. Seriously. Go to EdenPureDeals.com and use Fader3. Shipping is free and it's easy. Just scroll down. You'll see my name right there, Jimmy Church. Click on it and get your deal today. That's EdenPureDeals.com.
This is Billy Carson, founder and CEO of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv is the fastest growing and one of the most watched networks in the world. And I would like to personally invite you to check out our expanding library of TV, film, lectures, and special presentations. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv has over 6,000 videos covering lost history, health, UFOs, spirituality, and our future. We are committed to our community, and with my personal invitation, you can right now get your own free 30-day membership at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Your own library of information starts today at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv.
Because you never got that pony you always wanted. Damn it. Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer, Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. And you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright-Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, time travel with Isaac Arthur. What a great conversation tonight. And in a lot of respects, we're just getting started. Just kicking this thing off. There is so many avenues that you can travel down with time travel. And this is, and here's the thing, Isaac, as we I keep saying spider web because when it comes to time travel, I can go in any direction right now. And one of the literally, there's a couple of things I want to suggest. One, if we look at and talk about the fabric of space, and then we bring in space time, and a mass in space, most people envision another planet, another star, something out there. The same thing applies right here, right? The Earth, the last time I checked, has mass, and so does our sun. Now, would that suggest that time may change here all the time? Wouldn't it have to? Wouldn't these same applications that Einstein presented to us applies here? And we've got the moon, we've got Mars, we've got look at Jupiter is pretty dang big the last time that I checked, right? So does space time get affected here?
Yes, absolutely. And we've checked this with experiments as simple as putting two atomic clocks, one at a higher shelf than the other, so it has less gravity on it. They're very tiny changements there. It has to do with how much, again, that escape velocity analogy I used for earlier. The time runs slower here on the surface of Earth. It runs at different speeds, whether you're on top of a mountain at the equator versus at the poles. It runs slower the deeper down you are. If you're in Death Valley or the Dead Sea, you're just going to run a little bit slower there than we're on top of Everest. It runs slower as you get towards the sun, which has even more mass. If you're at the center of the sun, that would be the slowest place in the solar system for time. At the center of Earth, it runs slower too, even though there's no gravity right there because it's balanced out. It has to do with how much energy you need to leave the spot. The closer you get to the center of the galaxy, it slows down even before you get to the center where the actual Sagittarius A black hole is at. You get outside the edge of the galaxy, time runs fastest, except in the cosmic voids where things are really empty. That's where time runs closest to flat, right? And yet the difference is still pretty small. We're talking seconds on a year kind of thing.
Now, if I get on the phone with a friend of mine in Australia right now, they are at tomorrow. Okay? All right? Yes, they are. They're at tomorrow. It is right now August 4th in Australia. So why can't we? This is not a doofus question. We've all wondered this. Why can't we get on a plane, fly backwards against the grain, and go to last week?
Well, it's conflating two concepts there. The one is where we set the clock for the day based off where the sun's at in the sky. We have a universal time code that we use. It's based off of GMT time, but it's UTC, and that's the same for everybody, right? But where it is concerned for Australia, that's just where you're basing when does the day change officially based on when noon is. And most people don't tend to think about it. If you look at your typical, in the United States right now, we're having daylight savings hour. If you look at sundial, you're probably not going to notice it actually being south at noon. And then where you all based in your time zone is not going to be, it will move it too. Like New York versus Ohio at noon is not going to have the same position of that shadow. But that in that case is, can I just fly around the world really fast like Superman backwards and just keep going through time zones? And say that one doesn't work. Now, if you could go faster than the speed of light, then yes, that would do that mathematically. You would go backwards in time, but you just go much slower. You go slower and slower and slower till time stopped, and then you went faster. It would start going in reverse.
Now, if I had all the money in the world and I lease a private jet on my birthday, and I go back against the grain into all of the time zones, and I celebrate my birthday at midnight in each time zone when it's my birthday, and I complete the cycle, am I a day younger?
No. Well, wait. Technically, you might be a day. No, sorry. No, you would not be. I always got confused there. If you do that with the wormholes analogy we used earlier, yes. If you're doing that with slower than light, faster than light travel, or even just relativistic travel, yes, time will go slower and you will save some time. However, you can't do that just with the time zones because they don't actually represent a different time. They just represent a different time of lighting.
Right. Man, you're killing it for me again. Okay, so let's talk about wormholes. Yeah, we've all wondered about that. We all have. Don't sit here and say that you have not thought about that, because you have. And so have you, Isaac.
Oh, I have. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, now let's talk about wormholes. The Einstein-Rosen bridge, which is technically that's the origin of the wormhole theory, correct?
It's the main wormhole theory. There's a number of different types, and again, that's the one that comes up from general relativity. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, what is stopping us? Is it just energy? Is it the collapsing of a wormhole? Or if we go back to what's his name, George Lemaitre, right? And
right from the Big Bang theory.
Yeah,
Yes.
from the Big Bang.
The theory as opposed to the TV show.
Oh, he starred in that. He was time traveling. That was him. He was the writer. But here's the thing: disintegrating an atom, and the ideas behind this. Is it? I think we were talking about this last night with John, with
John
our
McAvoy.
yeah. It's a very interesting situation that we find ourselves in, and is it just a matter of trying to keep it open, and is that just an amount of energy that we don't understand, or would an advanced civilization have tackled that and it's simpler than we would think, like the way that Kip Thorne presented it in Interstellar, or all the way back with Carl Sagan and, of course, the movie Contact.
Yeah. All of the above. I mean, this is one of the situations where, since we don't know the physical laws of reality that cover this stuff that we haven't discovered yet, it's kind of hard for, say, what can an advanced civilization do? People say, well, Isaac, why can you just say FTL is not possible? I say, well, based on what we know of physics, it isn't. And there could be obvious exceptions to that. One thing I know for certain is that any advanced civilization is going to be working very hard to try to crack how to go faster than light, how to travel in time, and how to beat entropy. Those are really big problems worth solving, even if it's to do some kind of defensive barrier to prevent someone from jumping back in time and winning their wars of the year by blowing your planet up before you got space flight, So they would definitely be working on it. And if there's a solution, they're going to find it. If you're throwing, some civilization made up of the equivalent of transhumans or trans aliens full of, mind augmentation and a post-human setup where their brains are 1 million times faster and bigger than ours, and there's trillions and trillions of them in some Kardashev civilization. Yeah, they're going to have people smaller than Einstein who are the guys who sweep the floors, and their main brains are going to be on that problem. If it can be figured out, they're going to. But you can be the smallest person on the planet, you still can't make 2 + 2 = 5. And I know there's some math theorists going to point out ways you could do that, but those don't really count because it's not answering 2 + 2 = 5. You're changing base. So,
okay, so is it when the present? If you go to Contact and Interstellar, and I know that. I'm making another Hollywood comparison here, but it's more for everybody's mind to kind of understand what we are suggesting. The wormhole aspect of it, how is that, besides moving the entrance and the exit, right?
Yep.
But if you are moving from one point of the universe to the other, or the Milky Way, our galaxy, how is that time travel? In the movie Contact, she's gone for 18 hours, right? I forget the number, but I think that's pretty close. But here on Earth, it was a partial second, right? Yeah. She passed through, and that was it. But how is that time travel, and how does that apply?
Well, if I'm going really fast but slower than light, my time slows down. The usual idea there is that if you've engaged in something that would speed up your time you've passed, that's where you start looking at with the time travel paradox or things like that, where you've got something faster than light. Yes, you could have more time pass. What happened there? There's a lot of cases, and I'm trying to remember what actually it was for contact. When scientists help with sci-fi things, they don't usually insist on 100% scientific accuracy because they're trying to show a key concept. They appreciate that sci-fi can't always hit every button, but you could potentially have a civilization that was sending you that information that didn't exist yet. Really big civilizations that were all around the very biggest of black holes, the ones that would take trillions of years to form and actually will be built. That might be who's actually you're contacting. We see some examples of that in like Alistair Reynolds' novel Pushing Ice, where it just moves back. They're moving so far forward in time without realizing it from their high speeds that most of the cultures they think they're encountering as aliens came millions or billions of years after humans went extinct, but they think it was happening simultaneously.
Right.
And in some of these cases, you might actually have where, we figured it out way, way ahead in the future, and we were able to have you send yourself forward in time, and then we sent you back in time. And you could do that with a closed time-like loop, for instance. You could say, if those work, you build this machine, and this machine is your starting point. The moment you engage, we can send you back to that beginning point. So you jump far away, far forward in time or space, and we can send you right back to the first moment that machine was built, or sometime thereafter. That's allowed under general relativity.
Well, didn't Einstein actually, if he did address time travel directly, he did do it with time loops?
With closed time-like loops. Well, yeah, with time loops. And what the cases there was, again, if I move that singularity, that slow time moment of the black hole, if I'm moving that around so time has passed less for it, and I bring it back, I got the twin paradox thing where very little time has passed for that becomes all moment zero, and that's why I can step back around to. In a case like that, how that works out with the rest of the universe is really hard to say, and then some think that would automatically cause you to have like another split off universe that was walled off. That might be one of those accidental Big Bang or micro universe things.
Yeah, stop right there. If that is the case, does the rest of the universe experience the same thing? Or is this completely localized? Or does every planet go through that time loop? Does every star system go through that time loop?
I actually looked at that case in an upcoming episode. I was talking about time wars. What happens, with a lot of things like a quantum Zobo event, where we say, well, I'm looking to see what happened. Is this cat alive or dead? And I look inside that box. And by the way, the cat dead or alive thing is exactly contradictory to multiverses. These are opposed theories that are both true at once. But if I have an event like that, let's say I'm a distant alien looking from a billion light years away, and I got the great telescope or the path that was we look at it, and somebody opens that box, and the first time I see it, and is it still randomly being decided by me? And what happened to the rest of the universe that was affected by that now that I, as the observer of that cat, a billion light years away and a billion years in the future, have now seen it being alive or dead, and the whole universe reacts on that? Did a place where it was actually dead, and the owner was saddened by that and decided to build a doomsday device to blow up Earth? Did that reality no longer happen because of me looking from a billion light years away and seeing the cat was still alive and he's all good now and they go on to become a space empire? Right? Those kind of paradoxes are very tricky because when we talk about things like alternate timelines or alternate universes, you could potentially have several different versions of reality going on inside the same observable universe right up into the moment that their light cones actually intersect with each other, that their event horizons do, which is not just limited to black holes.
Now, this isn't a time travel question, but it sort of is. But it's from what you just said, if we are standing on Earth, you and I, we're in our backyard and we're looking at a star, right? We're looking at the Andromeda smudge. Right. Okay. And we understand that it's X amount of light years away, 1,000 light years, 10,000 light years, whatever, 2 million, whatever it is that we're looking. I'm just stars, Andromeda, whatever. But that is relative to where we are standing on Earth. That's how long that light has taken to reach Isaac and Jimmy standing in my backyard. But if you have like the James Webb and the telescope is looking past that, is it still 2 million light years away, or is it 1 million light years away if it's that much closer, right? Are you looking past right? Because the light would have already. We're looking at it at a different point in a linear sense. So is the James Webb looking at stuff closer to its current timeline as opposed to how long light takes to reach Earth?
No, the James Webb can actually look further back in time accurately, but it hasn't anything to do with when the light's. It's just the strength of how well we can see it. The light that hits it is any photon that's had time to travel to it. So, for instance, there's going to have ones from 380,000 years after the Big Bang, the last surface. The surface of last scattering, which is the edge of the universe for practical edge, is a giant wall there of all light that we call cosmic microwave background radiation from the whole universe was as hot as a star. And then, of course, we'll be looking at something that was right in front of it. If you put your hand in front of the James Webb telescope, if you something on the other side of the moon could do that, it would see your hand still. It would see it as it was the nanosecond before when your light left your hand. It's just getting them received. But it doesn't let you look further back in time. Yeah, I mean, in terms of accuracy, you can see a lot better because it can see the much thinner haze of what, tiny little photons is much higher resolution. So it can see more, I shouldn't say tiny little photons. There are far fewer photons for an event that far away in time and space reaching it. So it has the resolution to be able to make an image out of that.
So you are suggesting that what I am saying is accurate? If something is 1,000 light years away and you have a high resolution telescope and you are looking at it at a spot that would only be, say, 100 light years away, right, in distance, are you then looking at it in that specific time? Not 1,000 years in difference, but 100 years.
I'm not sure I understood that one. I mean, however far away it is, well, I shouldn't say how far away it is. However long the light's been traveling till it reaches you, that's when you're looking back in time to. There are things that might be 1 billion light years away from us now, where we're actually seeing light that left them 500 million years ago, just because there's that expanding space between us thing, which is not as confusing as it sounds like.
Well, yeah, and so that's what I'm suggesting. Is the telescope looking at the light as it has traveled only 200 light years instead of the full 1,000?
Only if it's an object that's 200 light years away.
So it doesn't change. You blew it for me again.
It just gets it does a better job absorbing those bits of light to see clearly.
Yeah, I get it. All right, now let's again shift this around. If you had a choice, and I'm specifically going to suggest that you pick 1950, but if you had a point in time that'd be pretty cool to go back into, the 50s would be pretty cool, right? Now, but you couldn't come back, right? You couldn't come back. The balance of the universe, the count of particles, are you upsetting the balance of the universe by removing atoms, particles at this point in time, cutting them out and placing them at 50, 60, 70 years ago? And now there's more particles in that than the universe knew about, and there's less in the future. Does that upset things? Do we?
Absolutely, yeah. There is no, if you cannot change the mass of time but could send information back, let's say you're not allowed to send any more mass of energy back at all. It's got to be an even budget. You're teleporting into something as a one, turning into you. You still affect time. You cannot get around this because even the one neutrino that got deflected off you differently by your position, your paddle, while you're in your hidden mountain cave that wasn't affecting anything at all, even that changed it. Even that tiny little change changed up and created additional realities. When you start actually adding masked universes, and when we're discussing multiverse theory, there are so many different versions of the word multiverse very appropriately that apply, but the one where it's just every possible reality that you could configure particles into, right? You shuffle the deck, every single version has one. This number is insanely huge. We actually have to use scientific notation on top of scientific notation. These like 10 to the 10 to the 700, right? To describe these huge numbers. Ones which, if you wrote them down, they would actually, or 70. I think it's 10 to the 100 to the 70. The numbers, they're so big that if you actually wrote them down on a piece of paper, they would collapse into a black hole. That's how massive some of these numbers are, right?
Right. You're not joking. I get it.
But in these cases, you've changed that. Now you've added one particle to this. It's the same as how many combinations of colors you have. If I have, deck of cards, 52 cards, the number of combinations that can be in is a very large number. But if I have 53 cards, I have to multiply that very large number again in there. There's so many more options just because of that. One more atom in the universe, of which there was 10 to 80 atoms, something like that, changes how many possibilities there are by more than there were before. Way more, like an entire order of magnitude more. And that would be even more if I add a person into the mix. So when you do something like that, you'll branch out so many additional timelines. And that's actually how you had that case where I said earlier, if you went back in time with your own mass, every version of you that went and did that at that same point in time, there'd be so many of them, you collapse and cause a black hole. Just for the ones decided at the same time.
I mean, we could virtually end the universe like this. So the only answer to that, certainly mathematically, is to instantaneously at that moment create another dimension, another universe, another multiverse. Because if it occurred in this universe, it would be the end of everything.
Right. That one's okay, though. If you can travel to another universe, you create a whole new universe as well in the process. And people get bothered by that sometimes because it violates conservation of energy, just making a universe out of nowhere. But we only care about conservation of energy inside the existing universe. How many combinations there doesn't really matter. But you make this whole new universe, and it's got all these new options, and that's consistent. And that wouldn't cause paradoxes either, because let's say next year I invent a time machine and I go back to year 1950. That causes paradoxes only if I'm going to my own timeline. If I'm going to a multiverse in which that's the one new thing that happened, that's fine. But we did an entire episode of that called Infinite Improbability Issues, which people will probably remember was the Quantum Cheeseburger episode, where we basically talked about all the crazy things that start happening when you have those vastly huge number of alternate universes and timelines. So you would have one, for instance, where FTL travel was not possible, but everybody thought it was, because just coincidentally, you were in the one timeline in which every time somebody turned on the FTL drive, which was actually a doomsday device that blew up the person who touched it, they were vaporized, but at the expected place they were supposed to materialize, they thought, that actually happened. That is theoretically possible. The chance of it are mathematically ridiculously tiny, and yet there would be a universe in which that happened not only once, but coincidentally every single time somebody did it. And that's the kind of weird stuff you could have in a case like that, because you would not know that it was just a freak coincidence,
We need to take our break right here, but we're going to continue this when we come back after the break. It's one of the most fascinating aspects of time travel. And also, when we come back after the break, the Earth is moving. If you're moving in time, how do you not end up in space? We'll talk about that when we come back after the break. Stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Mental God, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX-DB. VX.
Right now, the world couldn't be more chaotic. History shows us what gold does when the world goes crazy. It goes up in value. Right now, we're in unprecedented times. The pandemic, the war in Ukraine, the devaluation of the U.S. dollar. Gold and other precious metals are a defense measure against the hyperinflation that's happening right now. So, what can you do to protect yourself? Call my friend Alan Johnson at United Gold Group. He's dedicated to helping people secure their retirement income. He'll help you with gold, with silver, and other precious metals, and show you how to set up your own self-directed IRA. Safe and secure, United Gold Group makes gold ownership easy and affordable. There couldn't be a better time, so call now and get a silver American Eagle proof set with a qualified IRA. Call 800-753-8534. That's 800-753-8534, or visit UnitedGoldGroup.com. Reach out to my friend, Alan Johnson.
The Believer is the chilling true story of Dr. John Mack, a renowned Harvard psychiatrist and Pulitzer Prize winner.
This is an outreach program from the cosmos to the consciously impaired.
He risked it all to investigate human encounters with aliens. The Believer, Alien Encounters, hard science, and the passion of John Mack. Written by award-winning former New York Times journalist and author Ralph Blumenthal. Now available in paperback from High Road Books.
Are you ready to read about true paranormal events? Unex Media publishes nonfiction books about UFOs, ghosts and haunted places, time anomalies, cryptid creatures, and more. Just like KUNXDB Radio, it's all about unexplained phenomena. Visit www.unxmedia.com to see our list of great book titles by Debbie Ziegelmeyer, Gene Walker, Devin Listrom, Wayne Lawrence, Bill Spicer, and yours truly, Margie Kay. That's unxmedia.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from Rivermoon. Just click on the Rivermoon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact.
Join us August 5th through the 7th, 2022 at the Drury Conference Center in Cape Girardeau, Missouri for the launch of the Midwest Conference on the Unknown. There are 3 interactive days packed with vendors, exhibitors, and nationally recognized researchers presenting on unknown topics like UFO UAP phenomenon, ghosts and Bigfoot, and Missouri's own Momo, the Missouri Monster. Cape Girardeau has long been one of the most sought-out areas for UFO enthusiasts since the 1941 UFO crash. And now is your chance to be a part of the inaugural conference. Visit cape-events.com or follow us on Facebook at Midwest Conference on the Unknown for more information. Ex-listeners get 30% off by using the promo code XVIP. That's cape-events.com, promo code XVIP.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B Blend for 15% off of your order today.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network.
I gotta stretch my brain muscles. It's Isaac Arthur. I gotta stretch. I gotta get the blood into my frontal lobes. It's the only way I can make it through this show. It's I'm just being honest with everybody. Isaac, man, you make me think, and you do that with everybody, and that is that's the success of your show. You cause people to think, even though you're a complete debunking skeptic. With all of that, one day, man, I'm going to get you abducted, and it's going to be a whole nother science and futurism with Isaac Arthur. It's going to be a whole nother show, my man. Okay, how is it? I mean, what the big bummer would be is I'm going to travel back in time, and I'm going to go back to the 1950s. I'm going to hit a nice beach and look at the invention of the bikini and have pina coladas and I've got my beach wear on, and then I'm out in space and I get to look at it for about 1/10 of a second before I'm frozen solid. And I would be like, what? No. This
Well,
sucks.
to be fair, you probably have about 30 seconds or so. That's our best guess.
30 seconds to just freak out. Right? I would just lose my mind. But how can we be assured of that? We're not only is the Earth orbiting the sun, we know that, but the Earth is also rotating.
Yep.
So you want to make sure that you're not in the middle of the Pacific Ocean when you land. How do we prevent this?
Because worse than that, you try to like let's say I'm stepping through a wormhole gate to another location. If the speeds of those things aren't matched properly, your classic wormhole gate like you see in Stargate, you step outside the thing and you're moving 500 miles an hour because that's the relative difference in speeds. Or you jump across the edge of the universe where everything's moving away from us at say 99% of light speed, and you step out and kaboom. Isaac Asimov had the best answer for this one. There was a hand wave. He said, this was in his novel End of Eternity, which is probably the best one besides H.G. Wells' Time Machine out there for time travel. The idea is that you're just going to be following along with time. The gravity of your planet doesn't go away. You're stuck with it, and you move with it. And since there is no center of the universe that we're aware of anyway, that every place is effectively as good a location to be the center as anything else, that there really is all motion is relative to each other, there's no particular reason to think that if you jump back in time that you would exit another location. Of course, that could be a problem too with fast light travel that is based off of jumping through a wormhole. You might find yourself arriving at the exact same location you left, just backwards in time, and now you still got, let's say, from Doctor Who, had to walk around the long way. So you jump back in time 100 years, but now you have to go fly to your destination still.
So, wouldn't that be some insanely complex math to calculate the position of the planet relative to the year? Also, the rotation of the planet. So you would have to calculate all of this into your machine for your destination. So you do arrive back on Earth, wherever it is in the calendar year, and also the time of day.
Yeah,
all of this,
by you a few meters, you arrive with your foot in the ground, or 100 feet above it.
And a building constructed on your head that would kind of, or the lack of a building.
Yeah, I mean, from a fiction standpoint, you assume that you're kind of like stuck to the location as it moves, but from a mathematical calculation point of view, the universe and every particle in it is expanding away from each other simultaneously. We are rotating around the galaxy in a group of co-moving stars that occasionally loses or gains members and cross over a bunch of other ones. Like Alpha Centauri is not one of our natural native members, and it's not always been the closest star to us, nor has it always been.
That's right.
These things are going to move, and the planet actually kind of corkscrews around the galaxy as we move because we don't actually orbit with the plane of the galaxy. I think most people assume that Earth is rotating along that plane. The sun does mostly. It actually bobs up and down as it goes, like most stars. But we rotate at kind of like a cocked 60-degree angle off of that. So if you trace Earth moving around the galaxy center, we look like a pig's tail going around it.
And the galaxy is moving too.
Yes.
And space is expanding. I mean, all of this would have to be part of your calculations to make sure you arrive at the gate that you want to step off on, right?
It would be very hard to do that. And the question is, what are you actually fixing it to? And here's another example. I want to go ahead and, replace myself onto some piece of object because I can't move mass back in time. I can just move data patterns. So I'm going to teleport back to something. How exactly am I actually managing to figure out which atoms are where on me and on some distant object that I'm going to switch places with, so to speak, or realign, especially because they move around. People talk about like Roku's Basilisk or Roku's Basilisk, where some future AI is going to resurrect you from, the calculating where every atom of your brain was. That's not how that works. You are not static in terms of your brain like that. If you vaporize somebody's head or leave them in a crypt, their brain is scattered around things that would be so complicated to calculate, even in a non-quantum universe, that you need a computer bigger than the universe to do it. And that's probably what it's going to work out with that one too, is if you want to teleport things around through space and time, you would probably need a computer that was more powerful than anything the universe could actually have in it.
Okay, that was 5 poo-poos tonight that you've done on this whole thing, and we're not going to get to number 6, and I'm going to tell you why. There has to be. Let's shift this to an exoplanet that's just been discovered. Okay, and one of the things that we hear a lot with exoplanets is that its orbit around its host star is 3 days, right? We hear these numbers, right? So we try to imagine that, because here it takes a year, it takes 365 days for us to do it, and just imagine that happening over a 3-day period.
Yeah.
Right? That's an insane amount of speed. But we hear it over and over again. Apparently, Earth is very, very slow. Trying to catch a transiting star at Earth speed, we'd have to wait a year for that transit to come back around if we suspected a planet being there. That's just the way it is. But, and here's the thing, here's the rub. If you and I, it's a perfect Earth, rocky planet, oxygen, nitrogen, everything's there, water, atmosphere, biosphere, things are growing.
Type M planet.
Perfect, man. Perfect. They even have casinos. But you and I go there, and we, with our body and our DNA, right? And we're used to the sun rising and setting in the east and the west, and our years and our days and 24-hour cycles, and we age a certain way. We go onto a planet that is orbiting its sun. Its year is 3 days. What happens to time?
It will be running slightly slower there, but not as much as you're probably thinking. What's happening there is it just orbits very quick, because how fast you orbit a star is mostly based on how close you are to it and what that star's mass is. A planet that was actually habitable and orbited a star in 3 of our days, timeline-wise, 72 hours, that would only be possible around the very tiniest of red dwarfs, like M9s. Everywhere else, such a planet would be scorching hot, and this is one of the problems with exoplanets, is that it's easier to see ones that are very close to their sun, and it's very easy to see ones that are very big. As a result of which, almost all the exoplanets we've seen thus far are either very big Jupiter-like planets or very hot, or both. And it's not that we think that those are particularly normal and common compared to stars like, or planets like ours. It's just, it's easier to see the giant boring planet than it is the tiny, comfortable one. But in the case of like that case, your time's not moving that much slower. Even near the sun, I think I'd have to run the numbers, but it'd be not much, not enough that you could catch it on your watch over the course of a year kind of speeds, but not very big. And
what if we lived there for an Earth time? What if we lived there for 5 years, and then we experience that? Does our DNA alter? Does our the aging of our cells and our aging process, does that then get altered? In other words, after that 5 years, we come back here to Earth and we haven't aged a minute because we spent 5 years on that planet.
If it's, you could have a planet where there was a natural organism that latched on to things and automatically reconstructed people's DNAs. They didn't age. There's a lot of weird things you have on alien planets. That's almost by definition what alien would mean by that case. But there shouldn't be anything too weird about that planet. Most of the time lag that you would have from that journey would be from the journey. You get to the planet and you've lost so much time on your end of things, or gained it, depending on how you want to look at it. Maybe you lost 2 years on a travel time of 20, and you get that second loss on the way back too, 2 more years. But you're probably only going to, even a planet that's got that much time dilation for being that close to a star, again, I'd have to run the numbers, so we take it with a grain of salt, but we might be talking about a few minutes over the course of a year on the high end of that. You really have to get close to the free, like if I put a planet around a black hole, one whose accretion disk is light again, which I think was what they did with the one in Interstellar, although I never quite clear on how that wasn't gamma radiation killing them, but whatever the case is, we got a planet around a black hole, and you could have those. Planets can survive supernovae. If it was very close and it was a very big black hole, yes, you could potentially have really high time dilation around that. But otherwise, if it's a living surface planet, Not really. I think Robert L. Ford's novel Dragon's Egg, which is actually set with life on a neutron star, they are the times running so slow that they actually can experience less time as they're passing by, but still faster for them in the context of they're so tiny and microscopic that they effectively live faster, as it were. We usually say in this kind of context with organisms that by default, their sense of time is linear to their size or height or length. So you make an organism that's 10 times taller or 1/10 as high, its effective sense of time would be about 1/10 or 10 times more than ours, just because they can react faster to everything, including how fast their brain would think.
One of the mission statements for CERN and the Large Hadron Collider is Einstein and space and time. And on the list now, we have dark matter and dark energy is there. Of course, we have black holes, and they are trying to not only prove relativity, but they want to better understand time. Is there a danger of discovering dark matter and dark energy and these components in a laboratory setting like that, where you're flipping the switch and you're waiting to see what could happen? Is this a bad idea? And could they alter time on CERN as we understand it on this planet? And if they did, would we even know it?
I mean, yes, no, and yes, respectively. There's always a danger when you're trying to find out the physical laws of the universe and you don't actually know them all, and you start creating circumstances that are meant to check your theories. If your theory is wrong, then you may get a result that you weren't expecting. That could be a dangerous one. There really shouldn't be much of one from what they are doing. The energies involved are not that far out from where we are theoretically. So we're not really expecting them to create a black hole that's going to suck the planet up. And even if you made a little tiny black hole and it didn't expire from Hawking radiation, it would still take millions of years to eat the planet. I think the last calculation for a micro black hole that was subatomic would be that would need longer than the Earth has left to eat the planet. It's just a very slow process until they get bigger. It's hard to absorb atoms if you're smaller than they are, and people forget that black holes don't really suck things in. Black holes have the same gravity that any object has. It's just you get a lot closer to them. A black hole is safer to be around close to than a star of the same masses. And it's certainly safer than the star was made from. That said, do I think we should be doing the research? Yeah. I don't think it's too big of a risk, but yes, it is risky. And I would prefer people not just say, oh, no, there's no risk to CERN at all. You're playing out the edge of physics in a high energy facility like that. Yeah, there's always something there, but tiny. It's one of those, it's the risk we don't know about, the unknown kind of thing. As to whether or not if they did something to change reality, we didn't know about it. Well, we don't know about it.
Right. That's exactly it. We wouldn't know. Mm-hmm. And I think that the antimatter experiments, and they collected antimatter, put it in a magnetic box, keep it suspended. But that is messing with something that you simply, honestly don't understand. And if a black hole, micro black hole, which they have created, by the way, so they go and they do. How do you run with that high level of confidence that one of these black holes just doesn't spin out of control, starts eating the other black hole, and the next thing you know, it is really big, and then CERN is a pit in the ground, right? I mean, how do we not? What are the safeguards?
I don't think they've claimed to create a black hole yet, and I don't think they were aiming for that per se. But let's say that did happen. You make a black hole and it merges to another black hole. That's actually the most energetic events in the universe. When you get two black holes merging together, the amount of energy released is more than every star in the observable universe emits during that same moment. So that's how high that is. The funny thing is that might not be fatal to be passed around. People tend to forget that the Earth has this huge gravity exchange with the sun or the moon constantly. We only see a tiny little bit of that ebbs off as like heat from tidal heating. But the amount of energy that's in in the planet to orbit the sun is about 10 to 30 joules. I don't know how many, off the top of my head, how many megatons of nuclear bomb it is. Let's say about a quadrillion megaton nuclear bombs. I think that's about the right ballpark. that is how much energy it is for us to be this far from the sun. If we're suddenly 1% close to the sun, our energy has risen by about 1% of that in terms of gravitational potential, and we exchange that with the sun. Well, we actually do move a lot more than 1% closer to the sun or further away every time we orbit it. We are actually close to the sun in January, which surprises people, but it's why it's warmer in the south hemisphere, so to speak. But that's a huge amount of energy being exchanged, and we barely notice it because almost none of it actually radiates away as heat energy, which interacts with our molecules. Black holes have a lot of energy, and they release a ton when they merge, but it really isn't the sort of thing that there's if you have a black hole that has the mass of one atom or 1 gram, it still only has that much energy in it. It's a lot by Einstein, but still very tiny. So if you make a black hole that's got 1 gram worth of matter, that's still only going to be 10 to the 14 joules of energy when it's released, which is actually quite a lot of energy.
I was running some of those calculations today and looking at tera electron volts and the conversion, and I was doing it backward and forwards, and then really started to contemplate the amount of energy that is fired up at the LHC. It is crazy. I mean, it is a ginormous amount of energy, and then getting these protons moving in opposite directions and then colliding, which is its job, and not knowing what the results are going to be and just kicking back to see what the action is. Is there a possibility with these kind of collisions that you could open up a portal, that you could connect 2 dimensions or 2 multiverses and allow entities, life, to pass through in both directions?
That would be cool. Possibly fatal, but still cool. I mean, yes, there is a possibility. Again, that's that we're playing around the edge of science thing. I'd take a moment to say that thing uses up so much energy that they have to plot what time of year they're turning it on so that everyone can run their air conditioners in the country it goes through. It uses a lot of energy.
A lot.
And we're trying to take particles, run them through miles and miles of distance, and then hit each other with them. And the kind of precision that you need for that, it's like not playing darts. It'd be like trying to throw a dart and keep it on track while it circled the planet because it has just no speed. And so it hit your hand after you threw it. And just go like that, have it come back and hit that location after it went on the whole planet. And without having any way to guide it. It's not a missile or a rocket. It was your throw that was that accurate. That's what we have to do with that thing. It is hugely expensive for a reason, but it gets some results done. Nonetheless, as huge as the energies are involved with that, almost all of it doesn't actually end up in the collision because we miss so much. We throw tons of particles downrange and the other direction, and we try to have them hit a target, and most of them miss, And what we get out of that, though, is still, the energies involved. People say, well, can you actually see what it's like when you move something up this allegedly really close to light speed? It's like, oh yeah, we've been doing that for a long time. Every lab that you have doing particle colliders, they run these things at like 0.99999 C or much higher, and you can absolutely see the relativistic effects. We have particles that only live for fractions of time so small they wouldn't be able to move at light speed to the edge of this chamber. They would die before they reach that, even though they're moving at light speed or very close to it. But because they're so relativistically shifted by their own raw energy, often millions of times more than their mass energy, they live millions of times longer than they should in our subjective view and manage to reach the edge of that detector. Same thing for muons in your atmosphere when they're made. That gets the ground only because they are moving so relativistic that they live longer than they should.
Now, is there a danger? We were talking about this earlier, and I think it's a very important question. We know how many particles are in the universe. We've run the number. I know it's a crazy thought that we actually have a pretty firm grasp on the mass of the universe. But if we destroy a particle with the Large Hadron Collider and take it apart, are we upsetting the balance of the universe? And are we in danger of, if we disintegrate an atom, is it possible to to bump start a Big Bang right there on the border of France and Switzerland?
That depends on what we mean by destroy or disintegrate. If I burn a piece of paper, I've destroyed it. If I fuse an atom, two hydrogen particles together make a deuterium isotope. Some of that energy gets released, and now all of a sudden I've got a proton and neutron instead of two protons. Did those quarks get destroyed? Did those trillions upon trillions of C quarks, in which the real ones drift around inside? Sorry, not the C quarks, the valence quarks. Did those get destroyed? And does it matter? And the question is, how long do they even last? Most particles, as best we can tell, all the virtual ones, so to speak, they pop in and out of existence constantly in this big foam that we talk about all the time. Well, it's like trying to find the Higgs boson. These things pop in and out of existence constantly, and they're getting destroyed as though they never existed, because from a certain perspective, they never existed in a really weird quantum-y sense. And if they didn't exist, if one of these things was, if I were to reach back in time and remove just one atom from existence, all of its energy, all its potential, all of its future realities, those are gone. And the universe has changed because of that. Probably in a very tiny way. And of course, the folks who live 1 million light years away might not be in any way affected by that in a very sincere and genuine way until the light or causality reaches them, because the speed of light really isn't the speed of light, it's the speed of causality, of cause and effect.
Yeah, but locally, it could be a very big deal.
Yeah. And of course, that's going to spread. And of course, the big thing on all this, the big takeaway, I'd say, is that we, to this day, almost a century after we really started playing around with quantum, still don't actually have a theory of how we unify quantum with general relativity. So we don't have quantum gravity, and everything involving black holes, involving time travel, these things are all very dependent on that theory of quantum gravity. And the best way to resource that is that gigantic hadron collider and a few of its potential kindred will eventually build. So that's the risk involved. It is very minimal. I would honestly say I do not for a moment believe it's likely to actually cause any problems for us. But you can never really say no for sure when you're trying to figure out what reality actually is. Saying what it definitely will do is not really honest. At the same time, there's very little reason to think it's a problem. If we want to move forward and discover these things, though, if we want to know how this stuff works and see about these possible different reality breaking rules that might be in play, we are going to have to take some risks. This is life. This is what we do. Humanity did not get where we are now by playing it safe. Cautious, right? Cautious, not reckless, but you have to have been reckless, be sure. Cautious, not reckless, but we do not play it safe.
Do you believe, 30 seconds, quick question, that you have 10,000 scientists involved with CERN, you've got 100 countries, you've got hundreds of universities, right? It's a crazy amount of intellectual brain power involved there. But do you believe that there could be a group of very rich CEOs and corporation owners and elites going, okay, we got to figure out this time travel stuff. And when we do, we keep it to ourselves. Is that a possibility?
Yes. I mean, being rich does not necessarily mean one is wise in all things. And I've heard of many a very wealthy person building a doomsday bunker that seems like a really good idea because they're expecting the war to come to an end, and yet ignoring things that would basically make that bunker useless for them, even though they have spent so much money on it. It is not unusual for people with a lot of resources and power to do incredibly stupid things. And I can think of a lot stupider things than getting your hands on a time travel device and keeping it for yourself. So, that's basically what Doctor Who does. His folks, they have this and they don't share that technology around, theoretically for the good of everybody else, but in point of fact, they've got it, right? Doctor Who or whoever, when I have this time machine, or Jeff Bezos as it were, would I share that technology if I had it? No, I don't think I would. If I had a time travel machine, I probably would go back, win some lotteries, and keep that thing to myself.
Yeah, you don't want Russia with.
I can think of bad things I might do with that, and I think of myself as a reasonably ethical person.
Let's talk about that when we come back. We're going to go to overtime, and when I come back, we're going to talk about the science of Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3, and is it possible? But what would you do if you did have that technology? We'll do all of that when we come back. Our guest tonight, Isaac Arthur. Stay with us. This is Fade to Black.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
Hey, what up, y'all? It's your girl Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Hello, Fadernauts. Jimmy Church here. You've seen me with my Thunderstorm. Now you can purify the air in your home and get healthy, clean, fresh-smelling air and eliminate odors just like I do right here in the bunker. The EdenPURE Thunderstorm uses oxy technology that naturally sends out O3 molecules into the air, which seek out odors and air pollutants in your home and destroys them. It's called a thunderstorm because it purifies the air just like after a thunderstorm. And right now, you can save $200 on an EdenPURE Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. With this special offer, you're getting 3 units for under $200. Seriously. Go to EdenPureDeals.com and use Fader3. Shipping is free and it's easy. Just scroll down. You'll see my name right there, Jimmy Church. Click on it and get your deal today. That's EdenPureDeals.com.
This is Billy Carson, founder and CEO of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv is the fastest growing and one of the most watched networks in the world. And I would like to personally invite you to check out our expanding library of TV, film, lectures, and special presentations. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv has over 6,000 videos covering lost history, health, UFOs, spirituality, and our future. We are committed to our community, and with my personal invitation, you can right now get your own free 30-day membership at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Your own library of information starts today at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX-DB, the X.
Are you ready to read about true paranormal events? Unx Media publishes nonfiction books about UFOs, ghosts and haunted places, time anomalies, cryptid creatures, and more. Just like KUNX-DB Radio, it's all about unexplained phenomena. Visit www.unxmedia.com to see our list of great book titles by Debbie Ziegelmeyer, Gene Walker, Devin Listrom, Wayne Lawrence, Bill Spicer, and yours truly, Margie Kay. That's unxmedia.com.
Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch, roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JamieChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Heading into overtime with Isaac Arthur tonight. And Isaac and I, we knew there's time travel. We've just scratched the surface of it tonight. And we didn't jump into the butterfly effect. We didn't get into other aspects of this. Didn't talk about John Teeter and his gravity clock, which I've always found very, very compelling. And the fact that John Teeter disappeared and never came back, and was he a real time traveler? And we can save all of that for another show. But I do want to talk, have a little bit of fun and loosen it up a little bit, and talk about Back to the Future.
Have you seen Back to the Future 4 yet?
It was great. I saw it before Back to the Future 1. I got the videotape.
It was good.
It was great. And here, but here's the thing. It seems that it's funny, right? It's scientific at points too as well, but it certainly addresses the paradox in that the movies, and by the way, Back to the Future 3, it might be better than 1. Very rare Hollywood phenomena that a three-part series of movies exceeded the previous movie.
Very few movie trilogies do good. Star Wars pulled it off for the first trilogy, at least. So
you're right about that. I think you're right. It built on that. Very rare that Back to the Future was so well done, but it just turned out to be you have to go back and fix what you thought you fixed, right? And that's what the series is about. Time travel, if you go back and alter anything, is going to be not only a series of paradoxes, but you're never going to improve anything. You're going to come back home and go, oh, crap, right? And then have to turn around and try to fix, and then you're not going to fix that either.
The key thing, you can never go back home again with time travel. You can go to an alternate universe that was identical in every way for you, but if your goal was to go back in time and fix a problem, you didn't actually fix it. You just ended up in a universe that it was fixed in. You know, the one that you left is still there. If you go back in time and kill John Connor in an alternate timeline, if they're all alternate timelines, that's the one that's going to persist. And the one that you were in, it just has you in you with him going back in time to kill the guy. He still didn't die. That alternate timeline is where that happened. Then that alternate timeline is unfortunately that's happy, at least.
Is that the only way to get rid of the paradox?
Paradoxes? Well, no. There's a lot of ways that we can approach it on that, but the assumption is usually if there's a paradox can't exist. I don't hold it myself. I don't think. I feel like the nature of reality is going to require paradoxes be possible occasionally, which is paradoxical itself. But we usually hold that a paradox is something that's not going to happen. So if there's a paradox, it didn't happen. One of the examples we have is the Nokia self-consistency principle, which kind of holds the idea that if you went back in time and changed something, you can't actually have the paradox. So something's going to happen to make you go back and do that. And it could be something as strange as only the realities persist where you went and did that, right? You have all these branching timelines off of when you went back and changed that time, and only the ones that actually lead back in some way to you going back in time to do that action can actually persist. The others just kind of pop out as quantum foam. They're hazily there and they're gone, right? So I go back in time to save my grandfather from dying, and I have one where he still died anyway from cancer years back, and I went back then to save him. Or I have one where I did save him, but I went crazy and thought he died, even though he was still alive. And that's what made me travel back in time to save him. That would be a reality that would still be allowed to exist because it ends with me coming back to the same point.
But how do you introduce the loop? You have to start it somehow.
Mm-hmm. There's other ones you might have like inertia in some case. Like you go in a loop and much like a tire spinning around, eventually the tire stops. So if it's wobbly, it could get off hinge and break off, right? there are so many different ways that we can look at, and they're all theoretical. Some have math behind them, some work out well as mathematical theories, but the reality is we don't have any idea how this really would work. We can just look at an example of how it would work using certain mechanics and say, well, if X were the case, then Y, Z, etc. So we have the branching timelines one, we have the closed loops one, and we shouldn't assume, like we say, well, I go back and it becomes one single loop, like a piece of yarn that's just been loosened up there and put in a little loop. Think of it instead possibly as going to that same intersecting point where that yarn loop intersects with itself, but then it could do multiple loops in the same place, all looping back on that same part, just like you would a piece of yarn. It's still one timeline for you. It just happens to keep running back around the year 2100 for some reason. You invent time machine 2100, jump back in time to 2080, and you keep circling until you get an actual reality that causes you to do that first event again for real. So it isn't necessarily one timeline, one loop. It could be several next to each other. And that's another possible model of time travel. On top of the one, of course, where you just went out to the side.
Right. And would you experience it different? In other words, would you know, damn, man, I've done it 80 times now, and I've got to step off of this wheel. I've got to figure out a way. Well, I mean,
that could be one way that ends. You might realize there's an ever, like the little bits of shift and paradox are moving you, converging you towards eventually hitting a reality that causes you to start that first event again, or to continue the timeline, the Groundhog Day event, as it were, to get out of that. And then again, you got to say, what's actually going on in the outside universe where this is happening, right? We don't know that time is going to continue to flow elsewhere just fine. They played around with that idea in a Stargate episode 2, one of the best ones that had the bowl of Fruit Loops in it. I can't remember what it's called right now, but they finish up a day that's been Groundhog Day over and over again, and then find out that the rest of the universe has had 3 months go by. In the meantime, it wasn't able to get in touch with anybody. We don't know how that would work, but time paradoxes that are happening here on Earth wouldn't have radiated out to some place further away from the universe from us that it takes time to get there to, we think. It is one of those ones where there are so many different ways it could work. And we say, well, that's not how time travel works. And I know people tend to do that. It was like, well, the science says that's not how time travel works. No, it doesn't. The science doesn't tell us anything about how it does work. It just tells us if X, Y, or Z theory is true, of which there are many, here's how it might work. So TV and movies mess it up really bad in terms of inconsistencies, but there's no core theory of how time travel really works that's been proven.
The other part of this, which okay, so let's look at it like this: if the knowledge gets out, the technology is arrived at, it would be like instantly weaponized. But I don't think it would be weaponized in the way that people think. In other words, Russia gets it and they want to mess with us, so they go back to 1945 and kill Oppenheimer. We don't have the bomb. They do, right? Mm-hmm. All right. Well, no, I don't think that's how it would go down. I think Russia would
way more convoluted and crazy than that. It just.
I think Russia would just go back to 1776 and kill George Washington, and the United States doesn't exist at all.
Well, what about a future form of whatever the current civilization is that decides to deal with that situation from 10,000 years in the future? There's really only two places, depending on how you want to look at it, that are safe for a time traveler: the very beginning of the universe and the very end of the universe. In the heat death universe, everything's basically gone away to statistical noise, or you couldn't even tell about the past. So you could have people from very near the end of the universe that were deciding to interact back in time to make sure you didn't screw with faking to where they were at, or vice versa, that you did. I think Stephen Baxter played with that idea in one of his novels. It's not going to be something as simple as let's go back in time and kill Hitler. He seems to be his own subgenre of sci-fi for time travel, but that's not there. Same for like, I want to go back in time and save my wife, or etc. That's not how that sort of thing is really going to work out, because you're not going to succeed in keeping that secret. There will be a timeline, if you had the branching timelines option at least, right, where you didn't succeed in keeping it secret, and now someone in the year 2200 has that technology too. And at least one of those realities, they go back in time and give it to everybody. when is time travel actually invented? As Douglas Adams said, it was invented at every time and place in the universe simultaneously. And that once you have time travel in play, the universe starts getting to be a lot like foreign countries. Everyone speaks a different language, but everybody still eats cornflakes. So you can still get them anywhere in the world. And they got McDonald's.
Right. Douglas Adams was a time traveler, though. There's let's branch off onto Douglas Adams for a second.
Used to write for Doctor Who.
Yeah, that's right. His insight of science fiction and his approach to it was singular. Yeah. I think it was more brilliant in a lot of ways than Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke, who's my favorite author. But every time I get into Douglas Adams, I'm like, where is this coming from? Right? It's like way out there.
Yeah, such a fascinating. The waters really made less in a case like him where he died so early and on a treadmill, if memory serves too. Right. We had decades of good writing out of that man, and I miss that. And I'm sure there'll be a time travel, set up where somebody goes back in time and at least brings him forward to write some more books. But he was great. The only other author I know who kind of parallels him in terms of that. Just that uniquely strange view on things was Sir Terry Pratchett, who also sadly died. He was kind of the Douglas Adams equivalent for fantasy genre, but this is a fascinating view of the world. I wish I could write with the creativity and humor of an Adams.
It just came from another place, man. I think he was a time traveler. He was the science fiction version of like David Bowie. I mean, just completely way out. The more that I watch and read, and by the way, I spent this last year reading Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Now, I read it in high school when I was a kid, 40 years ago, and didn't quite get it. I enjoyed it. I was smoking too much weed, but I enjoyed it. But when you go back and you read it after you're smarter and you're older, it is the most complex, deepest book I think I've ever read.
There is so many layers to it. And it's one of the advantages of, I'm trying to think of, there's another couple of authors that do meta stuff. When you are writing the deconstructions of a series, when you get to be the one who's doing the deconstruction of a genre, things like that, you can pack so much into it that's otherwise not there. Dennis E. Taylor, a friend of mine, actually, I can't believe I forgot him on this. He does serious sci-fi, but he does sci-fi written for people who definitely know their genre. And there's the same thing in there. There's so many deconstructions of concepts that we take for granted. Those of us who have been growing up on Star Trek and Doctor Who, and just kind of looks at them. And it's kind of what I try to do on the show too. So I probably am biased on the matter. I love that. I don't write fiction per se, but I love being able to discuss those ideas in a scientific context and being able to deconstruct those cliches and things like that. It's like a whole alien civilization series. And folks like Adams, say, well, yeah, he's writing for parody, he's writing for satire, but that is one of the most beautiful ways to actually look at the universe, and one of the most enlightening ones is through that satire and parody viewpoint. And most scientists these days, at least in physics, are pretty open to acknowledging that they got their sci-fi roots, but you had a period in time where most of them really did not want to look at or discuss a lot of the sci-fi notions that often were what got them interested in science in the first place, were being seen as not serious or getting rejected by their academic peers. I'm very glad to say that period of snobbery and fear seems to have passed too, and that scientists don't seem to have any problem talking about a lot of these concepts. And the same thing with like the Department of Defense. We talk about, well, whether or not you believe in UFOs, it was really weird that for decades they acted as though it was impossible and crazy that we might have had one. And so that wasn't really logical or scientific. And even for those of us who are on the skeptical side, it was strange behavior, but they didn't want to be seen as going into that crazy discussion area. Now it's okay to talk about. Now it's okay to talk about sightings or things like that as though they were, not something that's just for folks who might be a little off their rocker. And it's actually gotten popular to talk about a bit. So I am glad to see that kind of thawing, and that there's no longer that fear to discuss the sci-fi-ish ideas or the on-the-edge ideas as though you're going to ruin your career for looking at them as serious light.
Well, isn't that the case, though, that with Douglas Adams or Star Trek or Asimov or Arthur C. Clarke, where it is fiction based in science, but the creativity part of that is what is missing with a lot of engineers and engineering students. You can geek out on numbers, but you need the stimulus, you need the creativity side. And then you can go and run with the idea, like the warp drive, right? Well, the warp drive was just something that was in science fiction or satellites or whatever, Arthur C. Clarke did and things. But if you plant the seed with a real engineer that can deal with the quantum side of things and steer your way through the math, then you can invent these things. And that's what science fiction has always given us, right?
If you can't invent them, then you can at least explore the idea or maybe find some parallel that works. A lot of things that we come up with in sci-fi are probably going to turn out to be impossible in the long run, but there will be something that we didn't see coming. This is not the war that was predicted by Star Trek. In some ways, it's better. In some ways, it's worse. I think canon-wise, we should be a nuclear landscape at the moment with everything blown up. I can't remember quite what the timeline went there, but it's a reality that you have to have folks playing with the creative idea of things. And some of the best sci-fi is written by guys who have doctorates in the field, like David Brin. He's an absolute master of telling good stories, and he is a good scientist too. On top of like Gregory Benford or Alastair Reynolds, others, Roger Zelazny, one of my favorite sci-fi writers, very creative. Played a lot with existential dread and things like that. He was his master's was in literature, not a scientist. He knew a fair amount about it, because you don't have to actually get a degree in things, know them, but that was not his area, a lot of good fiction does not require that background.
It's funny that you say that, because when we look at some of the greats, and everybody wants to talk about Asimov and well, even Gene Roddenberry and of course Arthur C. Clarke, was the lack of character development, right? It had
I love Asimov. I'm literally named for the guy, but he was not good at character development.
Zero. Zero. And I mean, if you're interested in characters and personality and conversation, the last thing you want to do is read a Arthur C. Clarke book. And he brought in Gentry Lee to kind of fix some of that.
It helped, and I mean, I liked the first sequel that he did with Eventually. I didn't care for the next two books after that, but and that's not knocking either. Obviously, they're both very, very good writers, but I didn't feel like I'm really looking forward to seeing what I've never pronounced his last name right. The gentleman who just directed Dune, he's going to be doing Rendezvous with Ron.
Oh yeah. I can never say his last name.
Villanova or whatever.
Yeah. And I just recently rewatched the new version of Dune. And you know what I'm going to say? It's not bad. It's not
the new version?
Yeah.
I love the new version.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad.
For a long time, the David Lynch Dune was my second favorite movie right after Blade Runner. And, the new one just plays with me.
Yeah, I still love the David Lynch version. You know what okay. All right. I'm just going to say this. We're in overtime, so I can border on being a little bit of a dick here. Timothy, what's his last name? Chalamet, or however you say his last name. His character is too. He runs and jumps in the arms of Duncan way too many times, and jumps on him, and I don't understand that.
I think they were trying to, every time they try to produce this movie, they're trying to start by showing a young Paul, and then he's got evolved into a much more serious character. But it was an example of a surprise. I have loved Jason Momoa since he first appeared in Stargate Atlantis, even though I really like the character he plays by, I can't remember his full name, Rainbow. But when I heard he was being cast for that movie, I thought, oh, they're going to have him play in Stilgar or Bistro Man. And the cast was Duncan Hine. I was like, what?
Yeah.
But no, he did that role amazing. He stole the show in that one. Yeah.
No. You're right about that. He was great in that part, but you can't have Paul Atreides running. Duncan, and jumping.
I love all three of the film adaptations, including the Dune miniseries on Sci-Fi. But when they've always tried to show Paul's younger side, he always comes off as, like in the miniseries, he comes off as a petulant, whiny kid.
He did.
For some reason, the young Paul is not somebody you really want to know or like. But I mean, the movie has its weaknesses. Rewatching it, it's definitely there. There are some structural ones, narrative ones, but I'd still say it's an amazing adaptation. So I loved it. But,
It's so good. I can't wait for the next. I knew when it ended. I was like, man, they're saying that they don't know if they're going to. Man, that was written. They're already in production.
oh, yeah. Well, it's like the original Foundation novel, short story Asimov left the ending off as being really obvious because it didn't even be said, but it was really just to make sure the publisher had a space for it to do a part 2. And you want to get paid. That's all that else I used to say. Oh, we got to get paid for this. But I think that they left it there knowing that they probably would get renewed unless it was bad. In which case, no one's gonna like you do a bad adaptation that ends halfway through. Nobody cares because they don't want to remember the movie even existed. Battlefield Earth. That's just the first half of that book. And I gotta say that was the first time. I always thought you saw a movie and then you read the book and the book's gonna be good, better than the movie was. My roommate suggested I read the book after I saw it because I hated the film and I didn't care for the book much at all. It was
quite possibly the worst movie ever made in the history of Hollywood.
Certainly the best known blockbuster failure. I mean, for the amount of money thrown at that should have been a lot better of a film. And I don't like to beat up on it across the board because shoot.
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible. I mean, and Travolta, who we all love, and he's never really messed up a role.
No.
Except for that. You know what I've watched? We're at the end of the night, but I do want to say this, though. I have watched over and over again, and I'm never getting tired of it, is the 3-part Childhood's End. I think it's an extraordinary adaptation, and I'm glad that they did it in 3 parts because it's too complex of a story. But I think that is right up there with the best of the best.
Yeah, I think one thing I would say is we have a lot more adaptations into TV now that are longer series, and I think a lot of things will do better in that format too. Although I was surprised they decided to finally do the Foundation as one, and they made all the normal changes you'd expect for a condensed movie when they could, with the time and the budget, to have actually done it right. And while I did love the Cleon soundtrack, I still haven't seen the end of the 4th season yet because I got very disenchanted with what was going on with the main plot line there. So, but it had the visuals and had good storytelling. If it had not actually been the Foundation, it would have been a great sci-fi one for myself. They had the time and the energy to have done it right, and they still decided to change the script.
You know what I did with Foundation? I defragged my hard drive and just accepted it as it was. And so
I will say that if you enjoyed it for itself and you hadn't read the books, great. Just treat like Starship Troopers the movie, right?
Yeah.
I had not read Starship Troopers the book when I saw the film. They have nothing to do with each other at all. And I really think Paul Verhoeven should have done a different name, right? He probably deserves a kick in the butt for that one. But one's a good movie. It's pulp, it's camp. The other is a great book. They are unrelated except for theoretical names.
Well, I went back and read Starship Troopers, the book, after I saw the movie. And you're right, 2 different things. But man, that is a racist, gnarly, difficult to read.
It's a weird one because so much the buildup was to actually have the last page where the character is revealed to be Hispanic rather than the traditional white guy. However, I don't think it really quite worked out as ideally as it would. A lot of times when people try to, you read a lot of old sci-fi, they are trying to be the non-bigoted, forward-thinking people, and it often reads very bad for its time.
Oh,
and you can't even I love Lovecraft, but oh yeah, that guy was so racist.
So racist. Isaac, what a great show. And now, what night of the week do you come out with your new episodes?
Well, the new episode can be coming out at Thursday morning in exactly 8 hours. We have Alien Refugees. And if you love the Fermi Paradox and time travel concepts, we got a bunch of them for the rest of the month. Our Time Wars episode and our Fermi Paradox technological time bombs episode coming up in this month.
Great Filter number 986 will be revealed. Isaac, you are the absolute very best, my friend. Congratulations to your success. You deserve all of it. But it just tells me that this world loves this stuff, and you're an example of why. So thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you for having me on again. It's been great.
You're the best, man. Isaac Arthur, thank you so much. We just went, I'm looking at the clock here. I've got to get out of here. I'm about to get kicked off the network in about 15 seconds, so I am going to get straight to it. Thank you so much, Isaac. Isaac, stay right there. We'll say goodnight here in a couple of minutes. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2022 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'll see everybody tomorrow night for Fader Night. Until then, be safe. Go Beckley Teppy.